Chapter 2632, Inciting a Rebellion. Boom. 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 Deafening rumbles constantly rang out outside the formations of the city. With each rumble, a powerful shock wave would sweep through the surroundings. The expressions of all the cultivators hiding in the city would change. The strongest among these cultivators were only God Kings, and there were not a lot of them. Most of them were below God King, including plenty of Mortal Realm, Sainthood, and Origin Realm cultivators. The energy that wreaked havoc outside the formation had already reached the Primordial Realm, possibly even the level of Chaotic Primes. The low-level cultivators hiding in the provincial city felt like the world was ending. "Dad, the formations of the city are shaking so much. Can the city stop them?" asked a young girl among the crowd fearfully as she nervously looked at the sky. "Junior, don't be scared. The city has the Tian Yuan clan. The formation won't fall. I heard that the Tian Yuan clan has a chaotic prime. With that expert's protection, nothing will happen to the city." The girl's father clutched her freezing little hand and comforted her. However, from how nervous he seemed, he was nowhere near as calm as he seemed on the surface. "Grandpa, will we die?" To another side, a boy looked at an old man. He was afraid. "Donger, the Tian Yuan clan is very powerful. We have to believe in the Tian Yuan clan. As long as the Tian Yuan clan is present, we won't die," said the boy's grandfather in a husky voice as he rubbed the boy's head benevolently. This happened in various places across the city. Now that they were trapped and were facing a disaster, there were people in the vast crowds who held blind faith in the Tian Yuan clan, believing that they could survive anything as long as the Tian Yuan clan was present. However, there were also people filled with despair. They could already tell that the Tian Yuan clan could not even protect themselves, let alone protect them. They were certain that they would probably be pulled into the entire mess, unable to escape from the disaster. As the strongest expert of the Tian Yuan clan, Su Ran personally watched over the entire place, maintaining the formation. She hovered in the air as she shone with dazzling light. She seemed to resonate with the formation. She used her cultivation to support the formation such that it became even more powerful. Below, the many members of the Tian Yuan clan, from the upper echelon to regular guards and servants, had already gathered. They were all grim. Some female servants had even paled out of fright, filled with fear and unease. They were afraid of death. "Senior Su, there should be no problem stopping them with the formations of the city, right?" The emperor of the Pingtian Empire, Mo Xingfeng, asked sternly. The two formations were the last lines of defense for the Tian Yuan clan. "There won't be any problems for now, but the young Star Lord is hurrying over with another group of people. If they attack the formation together, the formation's energy will be depleted several times faster. Even with me here, we won't be able to last for too long," said Su Ran. She was also grim. If the formations were as powerful as when Ming Xia cast them down, just the formations themselves would be more than enough to stop these people. "We could even kill them all with the might of the killing formation." Unfortunately, the formations were destroyed by the First Majesty. Many of the foundations are already ruined. Even though I've repaired quite a lot of it, their power has decreased by far, far too much, Su Ran said in pity. As soon as she said that, a group of people rushed over aggressively from above the provincial city. There were over 1,000 of them. The person leading them happened to be the young Star Lord. "How much longer before the formation breaks?" The young Star Lord stared right ahead with a frown as soon as he arrived. Two chaotic primes followed him closely. They were responsible for his safety. "Young Star Lord, if you include them, it'll take a day at most." One of the chaotic primes attacking the formation arrived before the young lord and looked at the experts that the young Star Lord had brought with him. The young Star Lord looked at the fearful cultivators hiding within in the city, and he actually smiled mysteriously. "There's no hurry. Tell all the cultivators in the provincial city that regardless of birth, regardless of background, as long as they attack the Tian Yuan clan, I'll spare them." The eyes of the three great elders beside the young Star Lord lit up when they heard that. They all smiled and one of them praised, "Young Star Lord, are you trying to get them to turn on themselves?" Even though the cultivators inside the formation are weak, unable to do anything to the formation, it's a good way to affect their morale. Ha, that's right. The Tian Yuan clan accepted them into the provincial city to protect them in such a generous manner. If these people begin attacking the Tian Yuan clan's formations, I wonder how the Tian Yuan clan will feel. I think the people of the Tian Yuan clan will start coughing up blood out of anger. Ha, the three great elders chuckled aloud. They were all high-ranking members of the Four Symbols Alliance. They had personally experienced the dire straits that the martial soul lineage had forced them into when the lineage worked together with the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan. They immediately contacted an Infinite Prime. The Infinite Prime called out thunderously, where his voice rang out through the entire provincial city as he explained the young Star Lord's promise. Immediately, the provincial city began to surge. Some of the despaired cultivators who understood their predicament seemed to see a sliver of hope. Their dim eyes suddenly lit up, and after a moment of hesitation, they charged out of the crowd and headed towards the Tian Yuan clan. Immediately, a series of booms rang out from the Tian Yuan clan's location. Cultivators had already begun attacking their protective formations. The actions of these people led to a domino effect. Even more people began to take part in the attack against the Tian Yuan clan. Stop! You ingrates, how can you do something like this? If it were not for the Tian Yuan clan letting you into the provincial city, you would have died in the wilderness long ago. How would you still be alive right now? How can you return our kindness like this and do something so treacherous? Li Hu, how dare you attack the Tian Yuan clan? I never thought you were someone like this. We no longer know each other. Watch my sword. There were naturally many people who defended the Tian Yuan clan in the Ping Tian Empire. As there were people who attacked the Tian Yuan clan, there were also people who defended it. They wanted to stand with the Tian Yuan clan even if they would have to risk their lives. At that moment, the cultivators defending and attacking the Tian Yuan clan formed a messy crowd. The entire provincial city descended into chaos. In the Tian Yuan clan, Shiyu's face had darkened out of anger. Many other important members had very ugly expressions as well. Although the attacks from the cultivators outside could not even scratch the formation around the Tian Yuan clan, their actions made the entire clan furious. Chapter 2633, The Betrayal of the Heavenly Moon Empire from the Air. The young Star Lord watched these cultivators turn on themselves and felt extremely satisfied. At that moment, he felt like he was toying with lives, where he could decide their fates on a whim. This was an intoxicating feeling for him. He enjoyed it very much. At this moment, an Infinite Prime Elder suddenly appeared before the young Star Lord. Young Star Lord, I've just received the news that the Heavenly Moon Empire wishes to serve the young Star Lord. The Heavenly Moon Empire? That ancient empire that yielded to the Tian Yuan clan? It took the young Star Lord quite some time to remember the Heavenly Moon Empire's existence. The Heavenly Moon Empire was just too weak. They were a measly ancient empire, so the young Star Lord had never taken them seriously. As the only child of the 9 brilliant Star Lord, even if he was only a foster son, he had a supreme status. He basically only came into contact with chaotic primes usually, and even meeting grand primes would not be anything special. A mere ancient empire naturally could not attract his attention. That's right, it's them, the Infinite Prime affirmed. The young Star Lord smiled evilly. The Heavenly Moon Empire is an organization that has yielded to the Tian Yuan clan, but now they want to serve me. That's pretty interesting. After a short pause, the young Star Lord continued, tell them that if they want to serve me, I need to see whether they have the strength or not. Yes, I'll pass this on to them right now. The Infinite Prime Elder backed away. The two ancestors of the Heavenly Moon Empire had gathered together in the depths of their imperial palace. They were extremely stern. The young Star Lord has been very straightforward. What he wants us to actually do is to attack the Tian Yuan clan with our forces. But once we do that, we'll be going down a slippery slope, one of the ancestors said sternly. If they mishandled this matter, their Heavenly Moon Empire would only be awaiting destruction. Since we've already made the decision to serve the young Star Lord, let's completely stand on his side and stop hesitating. let's do it. With their current situation, it's impossible for the Tian Yuan clan and Righteous Alliance to turn the tides, said the other ancestor. They were both infinite primes, and they had no idea that the situation with the battle in outer space had changed. That was because the mountain's soul was extremely distant from the cloud plane now. Let alone them, but even chaotic primes and some weaker grand primes would not be able to check what was happening. Very soon, all the experts of the Heavenly Moon Empire were assembled. Under the lead of the two ancestors, they charged towards the Pingtian Empire aggressively. The ancestor of the Daoist sect of Calm Clouds, Xingping, was present as well. He led the God King elders of the Daoist sect of Calm Clouds to take part in the operation. There were not a lot of people from the empire and sect taking part, only several dozen. However, they were all God Kings. Moreover, many of the God Kings carried tiny divine halls. Over 1 million of the elite troops from the Heavenly Moon Empire were assembled within the divine halls. Jian Shen, you arrived at our Daoist sect of Calm Clouds in such an aloof and overbearing manner before, making me cut off my own arm. That's a permanent stain to my name. Today, I don't need you to cut off your own arm like how I did. I only need to personally destroy your Tian Yuan clan. This time, my Daoist sect of Divine Clouds will devastate your entire clan, thought Xingping. One of his 2 sleeves was empty. Clearly, he was missing an arm. The Heavenly Moon Empire had formally betrayed the Tian Yuan clan, and they now opposed the Tian Yuan clan. They split into 2. The 2 ancestors of the Heavenly Moon Empire and the ancestor of the Daoist sect of Calm Clouds traveled straight to the Dong'an province with a portion of their God Kings to assist the young Star Lord in getting through the formation. Meanwhile, the remaining God Kings took the divine halls containing over 1 million troops to take over the other cities in the Pingtian Empire. Even the ruined palace of the Pingtian Empire became occupied by the soldiers of the Heavenly Moon Empire. Very soon, apart from the provincial city, not a single piece of land belonged to the Pingtian Empire anymore. Heavenly Moon Empire, you traitors, I curse you to suffer a horrible fate, and the Daoist sect of Calm Clouds is there as well. We should have suggested the Patriarch to destroy you back then. We never thought the Patriarch's mercy would actually lead to such a great problem. A series of curses rang out from the Tian Yuan clan. Many of the important members stared at the 2 ancestors of the Heavenly Moon Empire and the ancestor of the Daoist sect of Calm Clouds in fury, swearing out loud. Even many of the guards took part. Many of them found the Heavenly Moon Empire's actions extremely despicable. Keep swearing, keep swearing. Swear as much as you want while you can still talk, as you won't even have the right to talk a while later. The dead can't speak. The glory of the Tian Yuan clan will become history, the ancestor of the Daoist sect of Calm Clouds said coldly. Ha ha ha, Tian Yuan clan, you never thought today would come, did you? Our chance to avenge our ancestor has finally arrived, some God King elders from the Earth Spirit sect called out in glee. After the ancestor of the Earth Spirit sect, Sang Tu, was killed by Jian Shen, the Earth Spirit sect lost their only primordial realm expert. It immediately made their status plummet, so the Earth Spirit sect held a bone-deep hatred towards the Tian Yuan clan. Within the Tian Yuan clan, Xiu silently clenched her hands when she heard the cold remarks from the ancestor of the Daoist sect of Calm Clouds. She ground her teeth and said, Heavenly Moon Empire, Daoist sect of Calm Clouds, and the Earth Spirit sect, if the Tian Yuan clan survives this, I swear I will never spare you. Suddenly, a huge crack was ripped open in the formation around the provincial city. Immediately, a violent ripple of energy swept in through the crack like a storm, suddenly exploding in the city. Immediately, many cultivators in the city were affected. The storm caused many of the weaker cultivators to directly lose their lives. Even the nearby structures all collapsed. The formation around the city is about to fall. Su Ran looked at the crowds of people outside grimly as she controlled the formation. Once the formation fell, all the cultivators who had fled into the provincial city would be doomed without a single doubt. After all, only a tiny fraction of them were God Kings. Against so many infinite primes and the shockwaves of energy from 3 chaotic primes, there was basically nothing that they could do against it. I've already done all that I can. Your final fate will be up to yourselves, Su Ran thought. She was powerless now because even the Tian Yuan clan was struggling to protect itself. Since the formation will fall, I better kill some traitors before it does. Cold killing intent flashed through Su Ran's eyes. She suddenly vanished, and in the next moment, she had appeared outside the formation. It was extremely sudden. The storms of energy from the attacks of the primordial realm experts made the space there constantly shake as the cracks expanded. If the provincial city was the calm ocean floor, then this was the turbulent surface. Su Ran stood still in the air. No matter how violent the energy was, as soon as it approached her, it would be blocked by a mysterious power. Her eyes directly locked onto the ancestor of the Daoist sect of calm clouds, Xingping, and the two ancestral emperors of the Heavenly Moon Empire. Be careful. A chaotic prime called out from beside the young Star Lord. Even though Su Ran had appeared silently, his cultivation was clearly greater than Su Ran's, so he immediately discovered her and raised his guard. Afterwards, Su Ran moved. The distance between them was under 20 kilometers, so it only took a step to cross for a chaotic prime like her. With a single flash, she immediately appeared before the ancestor of the Daoist sect of calm clouds. She suddenly extended her old hand, piercing through Xingping's barrier of energy like it was paper and directly clamped down on his neck. The difference in cultivation was far too great. Xingping felt his neck tighten before he could even understand what was going on. He suddenly felt that he was suffocating. Even though he did not need to breathe, the feeling made his face change drastically as his eyes became filled with fear. Only then did he discover that Su Ran had appeared before him, staring at him coldly and mercilessly. Her eyes were filled with killing intent. At the same time, two of the three chaotic primes that the young Star Lord had brought rushed towards Su Ran. The third person was responsible for the young Star Lord's safety. Chapter 2634, The Fall of the Provincial City, Save Me. The ancestor of the Daoist sect of calm clouds, Xingping, could only choke out a few words hoarsely with great difficulty as Su Ran's hand wrapped around his neck. He stared at her old face and gray hair as he felt fear towards death, along with a slight unwillingness to accept this. He was unwilling to accept the fact that he would die before he could personally destroy the Tian Yuan clan. However, there was nothing he could do before the great strength of Su Ran. Although he was a primordial realm expert, he was as weak as an ant before her. Blood sprayed out as Su Ran crushed Xingping's head, dispersing his soul. The ancestor of the Daoist sect of calm clouds had died. The two chaotic primes who had gone to pin down Su Ran did not even glance at Xingping. They were indifferent. They only saw Su Ran. Xingping's death was nothing important to them. They arrived before Su Ran very soon. Their energy erupted like a tidal wave as the laws of the world danced. They used their full strength right from the start. The two of them were not weak. They were both fifth heavenly layer chaotic primes, the same as Su Ran. The Four Symbols Alliance happened to be in need of people while they tried to destroy the Righteous Alliance, so they only sent 3 chaotic primes to assist the young Star Lord. 2 of them were at the 5th heavenly layer, while the other one was at the 6th heavenly layer. They did not plan to try and kill Su Ran. They only wanted to keep her busy momentarily. Once the Four Symbols Alliance emerged victorious, it was impossible for a 5th heavenly layer chaotic prime to make any difference no matter how powerful she was before a grand prime. Piss off. Su Ran called out. She did not use any battle skills, nor did she use any secret techniques. She simply sent out 2 palm strikes and energy erupted. They contained the truths of the world as her hands shot towards the 2 chaotic primes steadily. Boom. Boom. With 2 deafening rumbles, the attacks from the 2 chaotic primes who were at the same level as Su Ran were easily nullified. Her palm strike still had not run out of power, continuing on to collide with their energy barriers. She forced the 2 of them back. The expressions of the 2 chaotic primes changed. They glanced at each other and could see how stern the other was. They were all 5th heavenly layer chaotic primes, but Su Ran was clearly much more powerful than them. This blasted old woman's cultivation has risen once again. At this rate, she'll break through before long, the chaotic prime who protected the young Star Lord, Lin Fei, called out. His eyes were slightly sunken. Out of the 3 chaotic primes allocated to the young Star Lord this time, Lin Fei was the most powerful. He was a 6th heavenly layer chaotic prime. Su Ran moved. She immediately vanished, and when she reappeared, she had arrived before an infinite prime ancestor of the Heavenly Moon Empire several dozen kilometers away. She struck out viciously. There was not a single infinite prime who could fight back against Su Ran, who could even overwhelm experts at the same level as her. Immediately, the infinite prime also died to Su Ran's hands, suffering the same fate as Xingping. It was also at this moment that a crack suddenly appeared. The formation around the provincial city had finally fallen, and the countless cultivators inside were directly exposed. Without the protection of the barrier, the energy in the air immediately surged down. The powerful shockwaves swept through all the structures in the city like it was unstoppable. Many buildings and stores were ripped to pieces by the shockwaves. It was not just the structures. Even the many cultivators in the city were like ants. They were either blown away by the shockwaves, spraying blood along the way, or they were directly torn to shreds. There were heavy casualties. In just a few seconds, basically the entire provincial city was flattened, reduced to ruins. Only the final layer of formations around the Tian Yuan clan remained intact. We already attacked the Tian Yuan clan. You said you would spare us, for Symbol's alliance. You are untrustworthy. You go back on your words. A few cultivators roared out angrily within the city, along with many miserable cries. The cultivators that managed to survive scrambled away desperately, fleeing in all directions. The fear for death enveloped the entire place. The young Star Lord hovered high in the air. He stared at the ruined city in satisfaction, ignoring the cries of the cultivators. He sniggered and said, "Jian Chen, your Tian Yuan clan can't last much longer. It's just a pity that you probably won't be able to witness the destruction of your clan. That's the greatest pity to me. But we need to deal with that old woman from the Tian Yuan clan as soon as possible, as she's pinning down 2 of my people. She'll get directly in the way of destroying the Tian Yuan clan," murmured the young Star Lord. Afterwards, he said to Lin Fei, "You go as well. The 3 of you should be able to kill that old woman if you work together." Young Star Lord, your safety. Lin Fei became rather troubled as he was responsible for protecting the young Star Lord. The young Star Lord took out the life-bound plume he had received from the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance and said, "I have a way to protect myself. Don't worry." Lin Fei glanced past the feather in the young Star Lord's hands and hesitated slightly. In the end, he nodded. "All right then. It's just that Su Ran is far too powerful. She can challenge those at higher cultivations than herself. Even if I join in, we'll probably only be able to pin her down. Killing her will be extremely difficult. However, I do have a way of trapping her." Lin Fei stared at Su Ran from a distance. Even though Su Ran's cultivation was below his, Lin Fei felt extremely pressured. He was grim. The heavens shine and the earth reflect, 8 poles of blood. Suddenly, Lin Fei called out. He formed a seal with both hands and used a secret technique. Immediately, powerful vital energy radiated from his body. They flared up like they were on fire as a dense mist of blood enveloped Lin Fei completely. Through the mist, Lin Fei's face rapidly paled and became haggard. This was because he was rapidly burning his essence blood along with his vital energies. He was paying a huge price to use an ancient and powerful secret technique. "Seal!" Lin Fei called out from the mist of blood. His voice was filled with feebleness as if the secret technique had drained all his power in such a short amount of time. As he called out, 8 blood-red pillars suddenly appeared around Su Ran. Every single pillar was completely red. It was like they were completely condensed from blood. The 8 pillars stood in a formation, isolating the space there and sealing in Su Ran. Immediately, Su Ran vanished before everyone. The space where she previously stood was replaced by red light. It was vague and hazy as if she was no longer in this world. Her battle prowess is very great. I can't keep her sealed for too long. It can only last for 3 days. Lin Fei let out a breath of relief as he said haggardly to the other two. He had to pay quite the price to use this secret technique. Chapter 2635. The Blue Sky Venerable. Thank you for saving me, Senior Lin. The other ancestor of the Heavenly Moon Empire arrived before Lin Fei and said gratefully. He knew that if Su Ran had not been trapped, he could be her next target. He could clearly sense the chilling killing intent. Now that Lin Fei had trapped Su Ran, it was equivalent to saving his life. After that, the ancestor's face immediately became filled with killing intent. He called out, "Soldiers of the Heavenly Moon Empire, douse the Dong'an province with blood. Disciples of the Earth Spirit sect, cover the Dong'an province with blood. Massacre them all, yes. Hold a bloodbath in the Dong'an province. Avenge the ancestor, destroy the Tianyuan clan and avenge the ancestor." After the ancestor of the Heavenly Moon Empire gave his command, a respected God King Elder of the Earth Spirit sect followed up with an order. Immediately, cries for the destruction of the provincial city and the Tianyuan clan rose up everywhere. At the same time, in a region of space extremely distant from the cloud plain, the Rain Abbess used her way of rain to suppress Gongsun Ji within the formation of cloud surge and rain flood. The rain water formed a ball around Gongsun Ji, keeping him trapped. The ball of water seemed to be corrosive, gnawing away at Gongsun Ji's protective light bit by bit. By now, the protective light around Gongsun Ji had been reduced to 2/3 of its original thickness. The protective light was slowly falling to the Rain Abbess. The mountain's soul hovered nearby. All the members of the martial soul lineage stood on it as they watched the Rain Abbess and Gongsun Ji. They were puzzled. All of them had seen it from the battle prior, including the Rain Abbess' actions of stopping Huang Fugi, Su Jiping, and Sha Yun, that the Rain Abbess had come to save them. However, as far as they could remember, none of them apart from Jian Chen had even met the Rain Abbess before. Among the 7 of them, Hun Zhang's body had been reconnected. He currently sat there with his eyes closed. The powder of pills had been sprinkled on him. The powder fused into his body at a visible rate, allowing his wound to rapidly heal. Very soon, it returned to its previous state. However, only the surface had recovered. His injuries were still very severe. Even with impressive God-tier healing pills, it would take him quite some time to make a full recovery. As Hun Zhang's last wound closed up, he finally opened his eyes. His eyes were slightly dim, and they possessed an evident smear of frailness. He stood up and stared deeply in the direction of the Rain Abbess and Gongsun Ji. He said sternly, "The protector swords of the Radiant Saint Hall are too powerful. After all these years of existing in the Saint's world, our martial soul lineage has finally encountered our arch-nemesis. First senior brother, don't be dejected. The Radiant Saint Hall has their protector swords, but our martial soul lineage has the martial soul mountain," said Inciting. The martial soul mountain was what the martial soul lineage depended on the most. Our martial soul lineage has already gained 8 successors. We only need 1 more to reach 9. According to the ancient records, once we reach 9 successors, we will experience unprecedented glory, enough to enter the annals of history. Let alone those protector swords, even if the Radiant Saint Hall gains a grand exalt, we will still be able to fend them off, said Su Qi. Hun Zhang nodded. He agreed with Su Qi very much. However, he also understood that it was already extremely rare for there to be 8 successors of the martial soul lineage. Having 9 appear at the same time had only happened once in the lengthy history of the martial soul lineage. Su Jiping and Hung Fugi have already gotten heavily injured by the Rain Abbess. Their battle prowess have weakened. Should we kill them both in a single stroke? Qing Shan said. He coldly stared at the 2 people who no longer dared to fight the Rain Abbess. Killing intent filled him. We've already depleted half of the power of our souls. Our battle prowess has been affected as well. If Su Jiping and Huang Fugi work together, we can probably only match them at most in our current state. Killing them will be very difficult, Hun Zhang said powerlessly. However, Jian Chen's mind was not on Su Jiping and Huang Fugi at all. He stared at the formation of cloud surge and rainflood around him and said sternly, "We need to find a way out. Without our support, the situation on the cloud plain will be extremely dangerous." In Jian Chen's heart, Su Jiping, Huang Fugi, and Gong Sun Ji were all secondary. What he truly worried about was the Tian Yuan clan. The cloud plain does indeed need us, or the Righteous Alliance can't defeat the Four Symbols Alliance with what they possess alone, said Han Zong. He looked around and studied the formation for a while before saying slowly, "Prepare to control the mountain soul. I might have a way out." "What? First senior brother, you said you might have a way out?" Han Zong surprised the other 7 members of the martial soul lineage with that. They had all witnessed the power of the formation of cloud surge and rainflood. Even experts like Su Jiping and Huang Fugi could only remain trapped within obediently, yet Han Zong, who was weaker than them in cultivation, had a way out. They would naturally be extremely surprised. "I'm not certain, but it's worth a try." "All right, let's stop talking. The situation is urgent right now. Let's move immediately," Han Zong said sternly before immediately moving the mountain soul with everyone else. As the mountain soul rapidly moved towards the edge of the formation, Qing Shan could not help but glance at the Rain Abbess. He felt rather unsettled as he muttered, "The Rain Abbess is still here. Without her permission, can we leave silently like this?" Jian Chen said nothing. He also looked at Rain Abbess as she dealt with Godslayer's sword. The light in his eyes flickered. "Brother Su, look at the martial soul lineage. What are they doing?" Huang Fugi noticed the movements of the martial soul lineage and asked out of confusion. Su Jiping also looked over. He was in doubt and said, "They're approaching the boundary of the formation. Are they trying to leave?" "That's impossible. The formation of cloud surge and rainflood is an extremely famous formation of the Rain Abbess. It's earth-shakingly powerful. Even with the unique methods of the martial soul lineage, it's impossible for them to pass through such a great formation, unless the Rain Abbess lets them leave." A gleam of light flickered through Huang Fugi's eyes. He looked into Su Jiping's eyes and asked secretly, "Should we follow them?" Boom! However, a deafening rumble rang out all of a sudden. The entire formation shook violently. It was unstable. Huang Fugi and Su Jiping were both surprised. As they watched the formation shake, they beamed. "There's someone outside attacking the formation of cloud surge and rainflood. He can actually shake up the formation, so he's definitely much more powerful than the two of us, the 6th heavenly layer. This is definitely the ability of a 6th heavenly layer expert." Su Jiping and Huang Fugi were overjoyed. A cold light flashed through the Rain Abbess' eyes as she dealt with Godslayer's sword. She called out coldly, "Blue Sky Venerable, do you plan on becoming my enemy by attacking my formation?" The Rain Abbess did not speak loudly, but it rang through the entire space there. "Ha ha ha ha, Rain Abbess, I have no interest in becoming your enemy, but I did hear that you have something called water cloud iron on you. I just happened to be in desperate need of that, which was why I've specially come for it. If the Abbess hands it over, I'll leave immediately." An old voice boomed out from outside the formation. Chapter 2636, The Rain Abbess Killing Intent. The water cloud iron is extremely rare in the Saints' world. Its value is immeasurable. Blue Sky Venerable, do you think I'll just give it to you? The Rain Abbess' sneer rang out from inside the formation of cloud surge and rainflood. "Ha ha ha, it's exactly because water cloud iron is far too rare and far too precious that I can't find something of equal value to exchange for it. Moreover, I heard the Abbess has many treasures and is very wealthy. Although I have managed to accumulate a little over the years, it's nowhere close to the Abbess collection. It'll probably be very difficult for me to take out anything that interests the Abbess, so I might as well just owe the Abbess a favor. As long as the Abbess gives the water cloud iron to me, I'll leave immediately whilst owing the Abbess a favor." The Blue Sky Venerable laughed aloud. He stood outside the formation of cloud surge and rainflood with his hands behind his back as his tremendous presence as a 6th heavenly layer Grand Prime crushed forward. Under the pressure of his presence, the formation immediately began to flicker. The blue sky Venerable clearly realized the Rain Abbess was facing a powerful opponent, so she could not be distracted. As such, he decided to try and make the Rain Abbess hand over the water cloud iron in a threatening manner. As the Lord of Planet Wando, the blue sky Venerable was forceful with all his actions. He did not fear the Rain Abbess at all. Moreover, the water cloud iron really was extremely precious, like the Rain Abbess had described it to be. If the blue sky Venerable really were to exchange for it, he would have to pay quite the price. Moreover, he just happened to come across the Rain Abbess while she was locked in combat with a powerful opponent. This was an opportunity for him. As a result, he wanted to take the water cloud iron from the Rain Abbess without paying the slightest of price at all. As for the favor he promised, he believed that as long as he did not get in the Rain Abbess' way, it would be returning the favor. A favor from you? Blue sky Venerable, you overestimate yourself. A favor from you isn't even worth 1/10,000th of the water cloud iron in my eyes. Piss off and I'll forget about what you did earlier, or don't blame me for showing no mercy, the Rain Abbess said coldly. She was brimming with killing intent, leaving no room for negotiation. Rain Abbess, you're only at the 5th heavenly layer. Even if you're very powerful and can barely fight against those at the 6th heavenly layer, that doesn't mean you're my opponent. I haven't spent all those years in control of Planet Wando for nothing. Show me whether your mercilessness can do anything to me today. The blue sky Venerable's face sank, and he snorted coldly. Energy erupted from his body, and he directly struck his hand towards the formation of cloud surge and rain flood. With the palm strike, the world immediately darkened. All the stars vanished, and the space where the blue sky Venerable stood shattered from the power in the strike. Across the entire Saints world, 6th heavenly layer Grand Primes were supreme experts who stood at the apex. Even across all the ancient organizations that had existed for who knows how long, there would only be a handful of them. Every single one of them was an ancient existence who could control the fate of their entire organization, able to annihilate the stars with a single gesture. They were extremely terrifying. Boom! With a great rumble, the blue sky Venerable's devastating palm strike landed mercilessly on the formation of cloud surge and rain flood. It made the formation shake violently. A few cracks even appeared. Ha ha ha, this formation of cloud surge and rain flood is nothing special. I only used a single attack, yet it almost collapsed. I'll destroy your formation with my next strike. Rain Abbess, changing your mind right now isn't too late. The blue sky Venerable laughed aloud. He formed a seal with both hands, and a huge planet gradually condensed above him. The planet was tens of thousand meters wide. Mountains and rivers could clearly be seen on it. It seemed extremely realistic. If someone familiar with Planet Wando was present, they would discover that the planet seemed exactly the same. The only difference was its size. It was a shrunken version of Planet Wando. Afterwards, the planet rapidly began to shrink. It went from tens of thousand meters wide to thousands of meters wide, then to hundreds of meters wide. However, as the planet shrank, the terrifying energy inside it strengthened. When it was around 300 meters across, the energy had been compressed to an utterly terrifying level. Just the pulses it gave off were enough to crack space. It was extremely astonishing. Rain Abbess, it looks like you plan to adhere to your foolish ways. Whatever, I'll just destroy your formation of cloud surge and rain flood, said the blue sky Venerable before suddenly extending a finger. Immediately, the shrunken planet above his head flew out. As a streak of light, it hurtled towards the formation with terrifying speed. With an earth-shattering boom, a huge hole was torn open in the formation after the collision with the planet. The powerful, lingering energy from the planet began to spread out in all directions. Wherever it passed by, the formation collapsed. The formation of cloud surge and rain flood had caved in as a result of the blue sky Venerable's attack. Moreover, after the shrunken planet destroyed the formation, it did not disperse. Instead, the residual power continued onwards, shooting directly towards the Rain Abbess with lightning speed. Blue sky Venerable, you seek death. The Rain Abbess' frigid voice rang out. In the next moment, her killing intent became so powerful that it caused space to freeze up and everything to fall silent. She had already gained the upper hand in her clash with Godslayer's sword. It was only a matter of time before she completely finished it off, yet the Blue Sky Venerable had come to interfere at such a crucial time, rendering all her past efforts null. This made her extremely furious, such that her killing intent towards the Blue Sky Venerable rose to an unprecedented level. The ball of water that flooded the protective lights suddenly vanished. The Rain Abbess had recalled all her power. Afterwards, with a wave of her hand, endless amounts of rainwater gathered together, condensing into a sky-blue sword. It shot towards the shrunken planet with a flash. My secret technique is anything but ordinary. Even if it has been slightly depleted from getting through your formation, you won't be able to receive it so easily. The sir who was trapped in the formation before, your time for revenge has come, the Blue Sky Venerable laughed relaxedly and gleefully. There was some contempt in his laughter. He had heard of the Rain Abbess before. She was only a 5th heavenly layer Grand Prime. No matter how powerful she was, even if she could put up a fight against a 6th heavenly layer Grand Prime, she was still lacking if she wanted to stand up to him. However, in the next moment, the Blue Sky Venerable's laughter stopped. His eyes suddenly narrowed. He was shocked. The planet he had conjured up with his secret technique was actually cut into two by the Rain Abbess water sword. The sword continued onwards, traveling right towards him with the presence of the Way of Rain. The Blue Sky Venerable discovered an extremely rare sense of threat from the sword. I underestimated you, the Blue Sky Venerable called out and became slightly more serious. With a wave of his hand, he drew a duster and swung it towards the incoming sword. The sword shattered upon collision, completely collapsing against the Blue Sky Venerable's weapon. It returned to a ball of mist that permeated the surroundings. The mist was filled with a dense and pure presence of the Way of Rain. The laws of the world seemed to appear within it. Suddenly, the mist started to freeze. It swept through outer space with an indescribable coldness, immediately beginning to freeze up a range of 1,000,000 kilometers around the Blue Sky Venerable. The Blue Sky Venerable suddenly stiffened. A bone-piercing coldness infiltrated his body, causing his blood to stop flowing in an instant. The coldness continued to spread in an attempt to freeze up his cultivation and soul. Chapter 2637, True Strength. At the same time, a thick layer of ice appeared around the Blue Sky Venerable. He seemed like he had been sealed up in ice. The Blue Sky Venerable was surprised. Disbelief filled his face. He would have never thought the Rain Abbess would be so powerful. She was strong to the point where he lost the upper hand as soon as they began fighting. He struggled to accept it. However, the Blue Sky Venerable finally understood the Rain Abbess' strength after this clash. He no longer dared to hold back. He immediately bellowed out, and his supreme cultivation as a 6th heavenly layer Grand Prime erupted completely. Terrifying energy formed a destructive storm around him, immediately shattering the ice to pieces. Afterwards, he clenched his hand into a fist. His presence increased as all his vital energies rose to his limit. After that, he threw out a punch. The punch contained his vital energies. Its might was astonishing, gushing through the galaxies and making them tremble. At the same time, the punch was filled with a presence like it wanted to defy heaven, as if it were not afraid of doing anything. This was an extremely powerful God-tier battle skill that the Blue Sky Venerable had grasped, the Punch of Heaven's Defiance. With this battle skill, the Blue Sky Venerable was able to rank towards the top among all 6th heavenly layer Grand Primes. This was because the battle skill was an extremely straightforward and powerful attack. The punch was all-powerful, where even other experts at the 6th heavenly layer would struggle to receive it. The Blue Sky Venerable had great confidence in his Punch of Heaven's Defiance. Even if the Rain Abbess was unexpectedly powerful, it would not be easy for her to block his punch. However, as he had come for the Water Cloud Iron and not just to fight the Rain Abbess, he secretly contacted Gong Sun Ji. He wanted to get him to attack as well when he punched out. Only when they worked together would the Rain Abbess be heavily injured in the shortest amount of time possible, allowing him to obtain the Water Cloud Iron. The Rain Abbess' eyes were utterly cold as she stood in the power of rain and clouds. Her robes buffeted wildly as her hair danced about. Even without the support from the formation of cloud surge and rain flood, she felt no fear as she faced the blue sky Venerable. There was just chilling killing intent. 3 fingernail-sized fish scales suddenly appeared on her snow-white neck. Every single scale possessed a profound patterning of the ways, and they were all pressed tightly against her skin like a birthmark. The 3 scales were the same in size. They seemed exactly the same, apart from being golden, silver, and bronze in color. At this moment, the bronze scale suddenly vanished. As the scale vanished, the Rain Abbess seemed to burst through some form of shackling. Her presence suddenly erupted, and she broke through the limits of her current cultivation in an instant to reach an even higher level. It was not just her presence. Even her cultivation and comprehension rose alongside her presence. Afterwards, she turned into a streak of blue light, piercing through space like a sharp blade and colliding with the blue sky Venerable's punch. Boom! The collision erupted with a deafening rumble. The punch that the blue sky Venerable had extremely great confidence in shattered. The Rain Abbess seemingly destroyed it effortlessly. The Rain Abbess continued onwards. She shone with a water blue light as she charged through the storm of energy from the collision, arriving before the blue sky Venerable in an instant. She struck out swiftly with her hand, shattering the layers of energy around the blue sky Venerable. Her hand landed on his armor under the blue sky Venerable's dumbfounded gaze. Immediately, the god artifact dimmed. A clear imprint appeared on it. Terrifying energy surged from the Rain Abbess' hand, immediately sending the blue sky Venerable flying. The blue sky Venerable stabilized himself 100 kilometers away. His presence was rather chaotic as he stared right at the Rain Abbess with widened eyes. Disbelief filled his face. The 6th heavenly layer. You've actually reached the 6th heavenly layer. I never thought you would have had your cultivation sealed up the entire time. The blue sky Venerable's expression became rather ugly. There was a sliver of shock. He had never thought that the Rain Abbess would have hidden her strength so much. Nor had he thought the Rain Abbess' battle prowess would increase to such a terrifying level after reaching the 6th heavenly layer. When she was at the 5th heavenly layer, she could already put up a fight against 6th heavenly layer experts. Now that she had reached the 6th heavenly layer, she would naturally become even more terrifying. It made the blue sky Venerable's heart sink. He sensed that the situation was bad. Water cloud iron was very precious, but offending an expert like this over a piece of it was no longer a matter of being a smart decision or not. Instead, he was looking to die. The blue sky Venerable became filled with regret. If he had known that the Rain Abbess had sealed up her cultivation, he would have never dared to provoke her. After understanding that it would be very difficult for him to defeat the Rain Abbess, the blue sky Venerable could only look towards Gong Sun Ji, hoping that he would work with him. However, Gong Sun Ji did not even glance at him. He had already developed fear towards the Rain Abbess after the encounter earlier, as this was the first time he had come across someone who could match or even suppress Godslayer's sword since he obtained it. As a result, even if Gong Sun Ji was 100 times bolder, he dared not provoke the Rain Abbess anymore. Now that the Rain Abbess is busy with the blue sky Venerable, she doesn't have the time to deal with me. I can destroy the Marshal's soul lineage during this time. After that, I will immediately return to the Radiant Saint Hall. Once I get back, I'll be safe. Even if the Rain Abbess comes to the desolate plain, there will be nothing that she can do to me. Xian Zhan is in the Radiant Saint Hall. His protector sword is even more powerful in his hands with his cultivation on par with 9th heavenly layer chaotic primes. He should be able to stop the Rain Abbess. Even if Xian Zhan can't stop her, there's the other protectors as well. Although they're always opposing me, protecting the Radiant Saint Hall is their mission. Gong Sun Ji looked at the Marshal's soul mountain that rapidly flew off and killing intent filled his eyes. Senior Su, Senior Huangfu, immediately help me stop the Marshal's soul mountain. Now that the Rain Abbess is gone, it's the perfect opportunity to destroy the Marshal's soul lineage. Gong Sun Ji called Su Jiping and Huangfu Gi before immediately pursuing the mountain soul. Leader, there is nothing that we can do. Farewell. Su Zhiping and Huangfu Gi had witnessed Sha Yun's fate. How could the two of them be bold enough to continue attacking the marshal's soul lineage? After throwing that out there, they fled as quickly as they could in fear. They did not dare to stay for even a moment longer. Gong Sun Ji did not understand the battle between the Rain Abbess and the Blue Sky Venerable, but the two of them understood it perfectly. They had already developed fear towards the Rain Abbess. Su Zhiping and Huangfu Gi's retreat immediately infuriated Gong Sun Ji. He glanced in their direction resentfully and remembered their actions. However, as soon as they left, Sha Yun, who had been lying there quietly, finally recovered. When he opened his eyes, his bloodshot eyes were slightly lost. Chapter 2638, Instant Death for Sha Yun. After he was struck by that bolt of lightning, not only did he become completely numb, but even his mind fell into chaos. Now that he had finally awakened, he had no idea what had happened while he was unconscious. Sha Yun looked around. He naturally saw the Blue Sky Venerable who had suddenly appeared. Even though he was in doubt, what he truly cared about was not the Blue Sky Venerable. He turned around and asked Gong Sun Ji, "Leader, where is Su Zhiping and Huangfu Gi? Where did they go?" "Senior Sha Yun, you've awakened at the perfect time. Don't pay attention to them for now. We've gained a rare opportunity. Go stop the marshal's soul lineage from running away." Gong Sun Ji beamed and immediately called out. Su Zhiping and Huangfu Gi's disappearance allowed Sha Yun to sense that something was off. However, as he watched the mountain's soul gradually travel further away, he did not think too much about it. He immediately pursued with his blade. "I spare you time and time again, yet you are so dim-witted. You can go die now." At this moment, the Rain Abbess' cold voice rang out. In the next moment, the space before Sha Yun was suddenly ripped open, forming a gate. Sha Yun directly rushed into it, as he was caught off guard. However, when he emerged, he seemed to have crossed through space. He had immediately traveled several thousand kilometers to appear beside the Rain Abbess. At the same time, a slender hand slammed towards Sha Yun's head with an indescribable pressure. Before the hand had even arrived, space was compressed. The hand made space seize up and press against Sha Yun from all directions. If it were an infinite prime, they would be crushed to a pulp by the space there. Even weaker chaotic primes would not be able to avoid death. Sha Yun's expression changed drastically. He used his cultivation as a third heavenly layer to forcefully support the space there as he placed his blade before him. Ding! The Rain Abbess' hand struck Sha Yun's blade, and a devastating energy immediately surged out. The medium-quality god artifact weapon broke with the sound. The hand continued onwards and landed on Sha Yun's head in the end. Sha Yun's body suddenly stiffened, and in the next moment, he became completely powerless. The light in his eyes rapidly dimmed, becoming hollow and dull. The ancestor of the Divine Blade sect, an expert only a step away from the fourth heavenly layer of Grand Prime, had died. Killing Sha Yun seemed to be a task of no significance to the Rain Abbess. She did not even glance at Sha Yun's corpse, as if third heavenly layer Grand Primes could not interest her at all. It was like they were unworthy of her attention. The Rain Abbess had grasped the laws of space, so the concept of distance did not exist in her eyes. She suddenly vanished, and when she appeared again, she seemingly teleported before Gong Sun Ji. Her eyes were completely frigid. God damn it, there's such a powerful opponent present, so why is she coming to deal with me? Why does she always oppose me? Gong Sun Ji swore inside when he saw the Rain Abbess suddenly appear before him. He was afraid of her from the bottom of his heart. The only thing that brought him peace was that even though the Rain Abbess could deal with Godslayer's sword, it would take her some time. And now that a powerful opponent, the Blue Sky Venerable, was present, the Rain Abbess clearly could not spread her attention. I'll endure using the protective light from Godslayer's sword. As long as the Blue Sky Venerable makes it over here, the Rain Abbess won't have the power to deal with me, thought Gong Sun Ji. His cultivation was far too low, nowhere close to being enough for him to see the details of their battle. He subconsciously believed that the Blue Sky Venerable was stronger than the Rain Abbess. That was because in a few attacks, the Blue Sky Venerable had destroyed the formation of Cloud Surge and Rain Flood, something that Su Jiping and Huang Fugi could do nothing about. From that, Gong Sun Ji sensed that the Blue Sky Venerable's strength was extremely terrifying. However, matters did not develop as Gong Sun Ji imagined. The Rain Abbess gently waved her hand at Gong Sun Ji, and in the next moment, powerful pulses of the laws of space appeared around him. Gong Sun Ji, along with the protector sword, vanished under the pulses of space. In an extremely distant place from the cloud plain, countless shattered meteors of various sizes floated. Violent streams of energy filled the desolate sea of stars. At this moment, there was a pulse of space, and Gong Sun Ji appeared there while being wrapped up in his protective light. He studied the surroundings in bewilderment. Where's this? Where's the cloud plain? Where's the Martial Soul Mountain? Where's the Rain Abbess? Why have they all vanished? Gong Sun Ji murmured as he felt lost. Suddenly, a great beast's roar, enough to rip souls apart, rang out. The terrifying sound waves caused the space there to ripple. The sea of stars suddenly began to tremble violently. Countless meteors exploded and shot off as streaks of light. Gong Sun Ji leapt in fright from the suddenness of all this. He turned around in some fear, and with that, his eyes immediately narrowed to the size of pins. He paled. What he saw was a colossal elephant. It gave off a brutal presence, making the sea of stars tremble as space twisted. It was simply far too large. Its body was equivalent to the surface of an entire region on the cloud plain. It was large to an astonishing level. Gong Sun Ji paled in fright. He had heard of space beasts before, and he had seen some prior to this. However, he had never seen such a large one. Moreover, the vital energy that the space beast gave off made his mind tremble. Even with the protection of Godslayer's sword, he could not help but experience fear from the bottom of his heart. Suddenly, the elephant-like space beast produced a violent hiss. Its long nose swept out, ripping through space and crushing countless meteors. It swung towards Gong Sun Ji with astonishing power. Most space beasts possessed low intelligence and were fiercely territorial. They would kill all living things that intruded upon their territory. Gong Sun Ji had clearly intruded upon its territory, so he faced its merciless attacks. It was not just a sovereign-level space beast, but one that would be considered powerful among all sovereign-level space beasts. The Lord of Planet Wando, the Blue Sky Venerable, had already vanished from near the cloud plain. Who knows where he went? He had taken advantage of when the Rain Abbess dealt with Sha Yun and Gong Sun Ji to secretly flee. In such a short amount of time, he had already departed from the area near the cloud plain, vanishing into the depths of the stars. I never thought the Rain Abbess would actually be hiding such strength. I'm in trouble now. Not only did I fail to get my hands on the water cloud iron, but I've even offended such a powerful expert. The Blue Sky Venerable fled quickly through the sea of stars. He moved so quickly that the stars around him drifted back as streaks of light. However, he had already become filled with regret. If I had known this earlier, I would have given up every penny in my possession just to exchange with her. I would never have tried to take it forcefully. 9 Brilliant Star Lord, you've screwed me over this time, the Blue Sky Venerable grumbled inside. He felt a headache whenever he thought of the Rain Abbess' cold killing intent. He knew that he had probably gotten in the way of the Rain Abbess with the interference. He had made her develop a grudge towards him. Suddenly, the Blue Sky Venerable's face suddenly changed. He came to a halt as his expression became utterly horrified. A weak pulse in space appeared thousands of meters away from him, along with the dense power of rain and clouds. The Rain Abbess figure appeared before the Blue Sky Venerable like a ghost. She just happened to be in his way. Do you think you can run from me? Said the Rain Abbess coldly with killing intent. The Blue Sky Venerable's heart completely sank. Chapter 2639, Hope with the Rain Abbess, the Blue Sky Venerable, Gong Sun Ji, Su Jiping, and Huang Fugi's disappearance, the space that constantly shattered from their fighting finally gained some peace. The energy that swept through outer space gradually settled down, and the cracked space rapidly closed up. Very soon, the dark, cold space recovered its previous peace. The twinkling stars formed a beautiful scenery. It was enchanting. The mountain soul quickly drifted through outer space like a ghost. It rapidly approached the cloud plain. On the mountain soul, Chu Jian, Yu Chao, Yun Ziting, and Su Qi all looked in the direction of the Rain Abbess and the Blue Sky Venerable's previous battle. They were all silent, and they were filled with many doubts. They were chaotic primes, so both their vision and senses were extremely powerful. They all saw how Sha Yun and Gong Sun Ji wanted to deal with them while the Rain Abbess was fighting against the Blue Sky Venerable. Subsequently, the Rain Abbess abandoned her opponent without any hesitation to deal with Gong Sun Ji and Sha Yun. It was like she was afraid of something happening to the martial soul lineage. They felt extremely puzzled over why the Rain Abbess cared for their martial soul lineage so much. Based on their impression, their martial soul lineage had never had any prior contact with the Rain Abbess. They did not even have any connections with her. Jian Shen was filled with doubts as well. After seeing this, he could not help but think about when he attacked the Cloud Zurge Empire with the Empyrean demon cult. In the end, he was trapped in the formation of Cloud Zurge and Rainflood. That time, he and the Grand Elder of the Empyrean demon cult, Qing Ming, took away the innate orchid of 5 elements that the Rain Abbess had planted where she cultivated. Afterwards, he attempted to devour the spatial insect emperor, which led to an accident. He almost died and ended up in the hands of the Rain Abbess. The Rain Abbess did not blame him at all. Instead, she bestowed a fortune upon him, assisting him in refining the soul from the spatial insect emperor. As a result, he gained its comprehension of the laws of space. All of this happened because of a mysterious person. Jian Shen was still not certain about this mysterious person's identity. However, he could tell from his conversation with the Rain Abbess and her actions that this mysterious person was related to the martial soul lineage. Moreover, it was also because of him that the Rain Abbess took special care of the martial soul lineage. This care was far, far greater than the precious innate orchid of 5 elements. At this moment, Hun Zong returned to the mountain soul with Sha Yun's corpse. He tossed the corpse to Jian Chen's side. The people of the martial soul lineage all became rather quiet as they looked at Sha Yun's corpse. He was an expert only a step away from the 4th heavenly layer of Grand Prime. Who knows how much more powerful he was than the Grand Primes from the cloud plane that they had killed. In the end, Sha Yun's corpse entered Jian Chen's hands. It would act as nourishment for the immortal devouring orchid in the future. However, Jian Chen did not take a single thing from Sha Yun's space ring. The mountain soul moved through space with great speed. The cloud plane grew larger and larger as it hung in outer space. At the same time, in another region of outer space near the cloud plane, the Grand Primes of the 4 Symbols Alliance were locked in battle against Tong Wuming, Lian Wuji, Zhou Zhidao, and the Lord of the Heavens Link Peak. Their battle was extremely intense. The 4 experts of the Righteous Alliance completely lost the upper hand as they faced the combined efforts of the experts of the 4 Symbols Alliance. They were forced into a retreat, covered in blood and heavy wounds. The situation with the Lord of the Heavens Link Peak was the most severe. The curse had spread into his bones and now towards his soul. As a result, even his body began to fester, enveloped by the powerful curse. Now, he was burning the flame of his life, pouring all the life in his decaying body into the battle. As his vitality drained away, a heavy presence of death appeared on the Lord of the Heavens Link Peak. Even if he could survive this battle, he probably could not keep his body anymore. However, it was also because of the Lord of the Heavens Link Peak's selfless contribution that Tong Wuming, Zhou Zhidao, and Lian Wuji were able to fight back against the 5 experts of the 4 Symbols Alliance to a certain degree. I'll keep them busy. You leave first. You still have time ahead of you. As long as you survive, you will be able to rise up once again in the future. The Peak Lord fought against the Gentle Breeze ancestor as he secretly communicated with the 3 Grand Primes of the Righteous Alliance. They would suffer defeat sooner or later if this continued. If they did not leave, they could end up dying here. In battles between Grand Primes, it was basically impossible for people to keep their opponents trapped if they wanted to leave. Naturally, this was only if the disparity in strength was not overwhelming. Of course, special methods of entrapment were an exception. If I escape, my clan will definitely be destroyed by them. How can I just watch so many of my descendants die to the hands of the Four Symbols Alliance? Tong Wuming replied. Today, I would rather die in battle than run. Even if I die, I have to drag one of you down with me. Lian Wuji called out. The flames on him suddenly blazed. He truly began to risk his life, burning his essence blood and injuring his vitality without any consideration for the consequences. Perhaps the ancestor of the cosmic sect, Zhou Jidao, had been influenced by Lian Wuji's words, as he immediately made up his mind. He was about to burn his essence blood as well, but at this moment, he saw something out of the corner of his eye. He immediately looked over. He immediately ravished with joy with that. It was like he saw hope in the depths of despair. He could not help but call out, "Look! The Martial Soul Mountain. It's the Martial Soul Mountain. The Martial Soul Mountain is coming." Lian Wuji, Tong Wuming, and the Lord of the Heavens Link Peak looked over. As expected, they discovered an illusionary mountain rapidly approach them from the distance. Fantastic! The fellows of the Martial Soul lineage have finally come. As if a huge burden had been relieved from him, the Lord of the Heavens Link Peak smiled. He knew that since the Martial Soul lineage had arrived, the outcome of the battle was basically determined settled. Fellow of the Martial Soul lineage, we're here. Come deal with these bastards, Lian Wuji bellowed out. He was extremely excited, almost to the point where he would dance in joy. First senior brother, you're still injured, so leave this battle to third junior brother and me, Chu Jian said from the Mountain Soul. Let's use the Martial Soul Array and end this battle as quickly as possible, suggested Su Qi. She wanted to deal with their opponents in the safest way possible. None of them were at their peak condition anymore. The heaven-severing technique had drained half the power of their soul, so their battle prowess would be influenced to a certain degree. Overexertion of their souls would directly impact their secret techniques that involved martial soul force. Han Zong glanced at the cloud plain and shook his head. 8th Junior Brothers Tian Yuan clan is in danger. We can't use the Martial Soul Array. We need to split up into 2 groups. 2nd Junior Brother, 3rd Junior Brother, will deal with the Grand Primes of the Four Symbols Alliance. The rest of you, go to the cloud plain. But first Senior Brother, your wounds, my wounds aren't a problem. Enough, don't speak anymore. Let's get to action. The people from the Righteous Alliance can't last much longer. Chapter 2640, Death to the Traitors. With that, Han Zong flew off the Mountain Soul first, charging right into battle. Chu Jian and Yu Chao could only follow him powerlessly. The 3 of them were the only 9th heavenly layer chaotic primes of the Martial Soul lineage, so only they could take part in the battle among Grand Primes. Oh no, the people of the Martial Soul lineage are coming. Where are the experts from the Desolate Plain? Have they all died? No, impossible. The 4 experts from the Desolate Plain possessed such great cultivation. Even the people at the 4th heavenly layer amounted to 2. It's impossible for such a powerful lineup to all die. As they watched Han Zong, Chu Jian, and Yu Chao rapidly approach them, Wu Lu, Gong Ji, Chang Feng Yun, and the traitor, He Dao, all became flustered. Their faces became extremely ugly. They felt deep fear towards the Martial Soul lineage. This fear was not because of their great battle prowess or from how they could challenge those at higher levels of cultivation. Instead, this fear was solely because of the Martial Soul force that they grasped. There was nothing that they could do to block Martial Soul force. The attacks would constantly make their souls ache. Even for them, it would be extremely uncomfortable. And that was not even the secret techniques. The secret techniques were even more powerful. Every time they were used, the powerful attack dealt would be enough to stun them momentarily. On battles at such a level, the slightest of carelessness could affect the entire situation. If they became dazed during battle, they would face the possibility of dying. As a result, the peak experts of the Four Symbols Alliance were unwilling to fight against the Martial Soul lineage after experiencing their strength. The risk was just far too great. Don't worry. The people of the Martial Soul lineage just went through a great battle earlier. They're no longer at their peak condition. They aren't as powerful as before, the Gentle Breeze ancestor called out gruffly. At this moment, he needed to raise their morale. Otherwise, if they became frightened by the Martial Soul lineage, this final battle that would decide the fate of the Four Symbols Alliance would be pointless to continue. Fellows of the Martial Soul lineage, you've come at the perfect time. Go assist Zhou Zhidao and Tong Wuming first. I can still keep the two of them busy for a while. Lian Wuji laughed aloud. He had burnt his vitality in exchange for greater strength. The flames roared on him, scorching the space there red as he fought against Wu Lu and Gong Ji. He pinned down 2 Grand Primes of the Four Symbols Alliance alone. Of course, the price for doing so was quite great. The 3 of them did not go to assist Lian Wuji. Instead, they rushed straight to Zhou Zhidao and Tong Wuming. The Martial Soul lineage had joined the battle. Han Zong replaced the Lord of the Heavens Link Peak as the opponent of the Gentle Breeze ancestor. As the strongest person of the Four Symbols Alliance, only Han Zong would find it slightly easier to deal with him. Chu Jian and Yu Chao assisted Zhou Zhidao and Tong Wuming, keeping Chang Feng Yun and He Dao busy. You seem to be He Dao from the Daoist sect of emergence. You just couldn't stay in the Righteous Alliance, and you just had to run to the other side to oppose 8th junior brother. Look at the fates of the other 2. Not only were their organizations destroyed, but even they themselves died. Was it all worth it? Chu Jian sniggered when he arrived before He Dao. His gaze towards He Dao was like he was looking at a dead man. He Dao's face became extremely sunken. He stared at Chu Jian as the light in his eyes flickered. You shouldn't have achieved an easy victory in the battle before. You must be heavily injured, or you wouldn't waste any words on me. I am a little injured, but I'm still more than enough to deal with a first heavenly layer Grand Prime like you, said Chu Jian with slight contempt. He directly stabbed out. Martial sword force condensed into a strand of sword chi that stuck to the sword. The moment it came in contact with He Dao, the martial soul force immediately attacked his soul. He Dao's face hardened, and he staggered backwards. The splitting pain from his soul made his face change rapidly. Afterwards, he suddenly gritted teeth and made up his mind. In the next moment, his face paled, while his body blurred in the space there. He was about to vanish. This was a secret technique for escaping that He Dao had grasped. As soon as he used the secret technique, his body would enter a state of being half fused with space. It would be difficult to injure him, almost making him invincible. All he needed to do was to wait for the secret technique to charge up. After that, he could directly cross a tremendous distance to escape. Even Grand Primes 1 or 2 heavenly layers stronger than him would not be able to catch him. Clearly, He Dao understood the situation he was in. He knew he could not last very long against the martial soul lineage at all, so he chose to flee without any hesitation. If the Four Symbols Alliance is destroyed, I'll leave the Cloud Plain. If the Four Symbols Alliance manages to regain power after I leave, I'll just return, thought He Dao. You want to run so soon? Though, running away from members of our martial soul lineage is not an easy feat, Chu Jian sneered. His eyes immediately deepened. Powerful martial soul force condensed into a sharp sword and shot out from his forehead. It pierced through all defenses, stabbing towards He Dao's forehead with indescribable speed. Even if He Dao knew that Chu Jian had used a secret technique, it was useless. He could only watch the secret technique press towards him. He found no way to defend against it, much less dodge it. Immediately, an intense pain appeared from He Dao's forehead. He could not help but let out a pained grunt as his vision immediately blurred. How is that possible? My body has already half fused with space. I'm basically invincible, but why can't I avoid the martial soul force even now? What kind of power is martial soul force? How is it so powerful? Dao was in great shock. The secret technique he was charging up to escape had been forcefully disrupted with that. At the same time, Chu Jian's sword suddenly stabbed into his head. Dao died. Now, all 3 traitors of the Righteous Alliance were dead. That's far too terrifying. Zhou Zhidao witnessed the entire process leading up to Dao's death. He was utterly shocked. He had clashed with Dao many times, so he had gained quite an understanding of his strength. Even he was only able to reach a stalemate against Dao at most, yet Dao had been slain so quickly in the hands of the marshal's soul lineage. This had quite an impact on him. Did that not mean that if even he faced the marshal's soul lineage, he would not be able to endure a few clashes just like Dao? That's terrifying. That's far too terrifying. Fortunately, the marshal's soul lineage suffers from natural restrictions, preventing them from breaking through to Grand Prime, or no one would be able to overwhelm them in the Saints' world. Zhou Zhidao's mind was in turmoil. He secretly swore that no matter what happened, he would not oppose the marshal's soul lineage in the future. Back to the Tianyuan clan on the southern region of the Cloud Plain. The provincial city had already been completely flattened. The towering city walls had already vanished. The city no longer bore any semblance to its past self. Only the Tianyuan clan enveloped within the second formation remained standing. A ball of blood-red light pulsed violently above the ruins of the provincial city. That was the prison that Lin Fei had created with a secret technique, which trapped Su Ran in the space there. Without Su Ran, the Tianyuan clan lacked any forces that could oppose the young Star Lord. As a result, the young Star Lord's people became completely fearless. They began to attack the formation without any worries at all. Even Lin Fei, who was responsible for protecting the young Star Lord, took part in the attacks. Under the attacks of so many experts, the formation around the Tianyuan clan trembled violently. It rapidly dimmed, and tiny cracks would constantly appear. Clearly, the formation had already reached its limit. Boom! At this moment, a powerful strike from Lin Fei landed heavily on the barrier. The terrifying attack from a 6th heavenly layer chaotic prime had finally pushed the formation past the point of destruction. All of its foundations exploded, and the final formation around the Tianyuan clan finally fell. Without the formation, everyone in the Tianyuan clan was directly exposed to the violent streams of energy. The powerful shockwaves in the air surged down like flood, as if they could swallow up everything. Everyone in the Tianyuan clan became ghastly pale as they witnessed this apocalyptic scene. Over half of them showed looks of despair. Chapter 2641. Hanging by a thread. The storms of energy were created when Lin Fei struck out. Even God Kings could not endure such terrifying shockwaves. Moreover, not even 1/100th of the people in the clan had reached God King. In the face of this terrifying storm that could even claim the lives of God Kings, the cultivators who were not even God Kings would definitely die. Am I, the great newbies, just going to die here like this today? The golden-robed newbie stood on a roof as he stared at the storm of energy that was sweeping over. He refused to accept this. He had already reached peak God King. In particular, ever since he obtained the corpse of the old snake, his cultivation had rapidly approached the primordial realm by absorbing the essence of his clansmen. He would be able to break through and truly reach the primordial realm before long. Even his bloodline was evolving as he devoured the old snake. He was confident that he would definitely shine gloriously in the future and become a dominating expert. I, the great newbies, have only begun my path. I still haven't reached the end of my evolution. A smear of craziness appeared in Newbie's eyes, along with an intense reluctance to just accept all this. He was unwilling to simply die like this. He was unwilling to die before he reached the apex. At the same time, he was unwilling to become a stepping stone for others. Aren't you just chaotic primes? So what if you're chaotic primes? I'm not afraid of you. Madness filled Newbie's eyes. As he was about to face total annihilation, he did not wait for his death in dejection. Instead, he aroused a great fighting spirit hidden within his bloodline. He would rather die than yield. Even if he knew he would die, he would not just sit there and wait for it. He chose to burn all the potential his body had to offer and erupt with all his strength, using his feeble flame of life to explode with the most resplendent light and die in battle in a spectacular fashion. Just when Nubis erupted with this fearless mindset and was about to give up everything for one final battle, he seemed to awaken some sort of potential hidden deep within his bloodline. His unique blood as a silver-striped golden snake actually changed slightly. The change was very slight and very profound. Even Nubis himself failed to sense it. However, this change allowed Nubis' bloodline to inch forwards, making it even greater. In other words, his bloodline was evolving ever so slightly in this moment. The terrifying energy swept down like it could destroy everyone. Nubis could not help but return to his original form before the tremendous pressure. He became a small, golden snake several tens of thousand meters long. He was still a small snake because he was just too thin. He was tens of thousand meters long, but he was only as wide as a water tank. The width did not match up to the length at all. From afar, he seemed like a long, golden thread hovering in the air. A golden and silver stripe ran down his back along his entire body. The golden stripe had become him. It did not stand out much at all, as if it had fused with his golden scales. Only the silver stripe shone brightly. This was the symbol of golden-striped silver snakes. A short stub grew from Nubis' head. A profound pattern wrapped around it. Blue light seemed to flicker on it. Silver-striped golden snakes did not possess horns. Clearly, Nubis had deviated from the appearance that golden-striped silver snakes possessed. Suddenly, Nubis produced a hiss. His long body suddenly coiled up. Above the Tian Yuan clan, he formed a shield from his body as his head charged into the sky like a sword, fearlessly rushing towards the energy shockwaves. However, the difference was far too great. Even when Nubis had already become a peak god king, even when Nubis' bloodline had evolved ever so slightly, he was still unable to make up for the colossal difference. Under the violent ripples of energy, Nubis' head first became riddled with cracks, oozing with golden blood. Afterwards, all of his golden scales shattered. His huge body became covered with countless wounds. Golden blood covered his entire body. Nubis let out a pained hiss. He used his body as a shield above the Tian Yuan clan, bearing the brunt of the initial storm. He immediately became heavily injured, and his long body was almost ripped into pieces under the ravaging of the energy. Just as Nubis felt like he was about to be torn into pieces, the hurried sound of a zither suddenly rang out. Shangguan Moor sat in the air as the 36-stringed zither of the demonic cry was placed across her knees. Her slender fingers quickly danced across the strings, producing sound wave after sound wave. Her fingers had already been cut. Blood dyed the strings red, dripping onto the zither. Clearly, Shangguan Moor had already unleashed her full strength. However, even with her and Nubis, it was still a futile struggle against the shockwaves of a chaotic prime's attacks. It was useless even with the third ancestor's legacy, even when she had grasped the two tunes of the demonic and divine. Spurt. Blood sprayed from Shangguan Moor's mouth, and she fell towards the ground like a broken kite. Her face was pale. However, at this moment, a gentle energy silently appeared around her, protecting her. A sliver of shock and doubt appeared in Shangguan Moor's eyes when she sensed the existence of this energy. She could clearly feel just how terrifying this energy was. Even when it was only a thin layer, it seemed indestructible in Shangguan Moor's eyes. It was as if even in a scenario where the world was destroyed and space collapsed, this thin layer of energy would still exist. Shangguan Moor suddenly looked at the depths of the Tian Yuan clan. She could vaguely sense that the energy came from there. To her pity, the energy only protected her. Nubis and everyone else in the Tian Yuan clan still faced the devastating storm. It was as if the mysterious expert only valued her out of the entire Tian Yuan clan. Shangguan Moor opened her mouth. Just when she was about to ask the mysterious expert to save the Tian Yuan clan, a huge, bronze shield suddenly flew down from outer space. It crossed through the air with unbelievable speed and appeared above the Tian Yuan clan in an instant. An azure light fell from it and enveloped the entire clan. When the violent streams of energy collided with the azure barrier of light, the barrier immediately rippled and blocked the energy successfully. Inciting and Su Qi rapidly descended. They gave off their powerful presences as chaotic primes, shooting through the air like comets towards the Tian Yuan clan. Behind them, Bai Rufeng, Qing Shan, and Jian Chen all hurried towards the Tian Yuan clan at varying speeds. Oh no, it's the martial soul lineage. They've actually returned. Lin Fei's expression immediately changed. He suddenly sensed an ill omen. Oh no, the people from the martial soul lineage have actually returned. Have the seniors from the desolate plain failed to kill them? We're in trouble now. Do we still destroy the Tian Yuan clan or not? Should we retreat first? The hearts of the two chaotic primes beside the young Star Lord sank. They became extremely stern. However, before they could come up with a plan, Inciting and Su Qi had already appeared before them. Inciting wielded a bronze spear as his presence surged. He directly stabbed out, targeting Lin Fei. Soul-destroying technique. As he struck out, Inciting immediately used a secret technique. Chapter 2642. Killing Lin Fei instantly. Even though Lin Fei was a 6th heavenly layer chaotic prime, he dared not be careless when he faced Inciting, a 5th heavenly layer chaotic prime. Instead, he was stern. A two-handed sword suddenly appeared in his hands. As the energy within him erupted, the sword immediately shone brightly. It emitted a blazing white light as the supreme pressure of a 6th heavenly layer chaotic prime permeated the surroundings, causing the clouds and wind to churn. Lin Fei used his full strength right from the start, but as he swung out with his sword, a thunderous explosion suddenly rang out in his head. His soul had been silently impacted by a mysterious power, making him feel like it was being ripped apart. Even his vision plunged into darkness. The pain from his soul was enough to knock him unconscious, making Lin Fei lose his senses of the outside world. Spurt. It was also at this moment that Inciting's bronze spear pierced through the protective energy around Lin Fei, continuing onwards until it impaled Lin Fei's head. Lin Fei, a 6th heavenly layer chaotic prime, had been killed by the first strike. Inciting had instantly killed Lin Fei in an overwhelming manner. How is that possible? Lin Fei is actually dead. Above the Tian Yuan clan, the other two chaotic primes from the Four Symbols Alliance blankly stared at Lin Fei, who had a spear in his head. Their faces were filled with disbelief. From when Inciting appeared before Lin Fei to when Lin Fei died, it had basically been a split second. Lin Fei, who was a heavenly layer stronger than them, seemed so puny before Inciting. They struggled to accept this. Even when they were mentally prepared, even when they understood that the battle prowess of the martial soul lineage was outstanding, even when they knew that martial soul force was strange and unfathomable, they had never imagined it to be this terrifying. At that moment, the two great elders were filled with fear. They could only stare at the dead Lin Fei blankly. They forgot to run. It was also at this moment that Su Qi arrived. She directly approached one of the great elders. Su Qi's cultivation was slightly weaker than Inciting's. She was a 3rd heavenly layer chaotic prime. However, she showed no fear against the two opponents who possessed greater cultivation than her. Immediately, rumbles filled the sky. Su Qi had already become embroiled in a battle against one of them. However, as her cultivation was 2 heavenly layers lower than his, it took Su Qi slightly longer than Inciting. Run. Only now did the other great elder finally return to his senses. He lost all will to fight. His entire body shivered as he turned around to flee in complete fear. Inciting suddenly appeared before him. His eyes were closed, and he looked at the great elder like he was a dead man. Inciting did not waste any words on him and just stabbed out mercilessly with his bronze spear. The 3 chaotic primes that the young Star Lord had brought with him were not Inciting and Su Qi's opponents at all. They were slain very quickly. The 3 chaotic primes were like the source of stability for the army. Their deaths directly toppled their morale. The expressions of the Infinite Primes who had attacked the Tian Yuan clan first all changed drastically. They felt dazed. When the 3 chaotic primes died, it was like a bolt of lightning had just struck them. They could no longer be bothered with the Tian Yuan clan anymore, immediately scattering and fleeing in fear. Afterwards, although the God Kings and cultivators below God King had no idea what had happened, they all sensed an ill omen when they saw their powerful elders flee. They all turned around to escape without any hesitation. At that moment, the many cultivators gathered around the Tian Yuan clan, cultivators who were ready to douse the clan with blood, all vanished. They fled for their lives in all directions. Although half of the God Kings among them were running away, they were filled with confusion and doubt. They had no idea what had happened that could scare the powerful elders like that. However, while they were filled with doubt, they were not slow. The fear on the faces of the elders had affected many of the cultivators below, so basically all of them used all the power that they had to run. Why would it be like this? Why would it be like this? A gray-robed old man hovered above the ruins of the provincial city. He did not flee like the other Infinite Primes. Instead, he hovered there gloomily. He was at a loss. The old man gave off the presence of an Infinite Prime. He was the ancestor of the Heavenly Moon Empire. Out of the 2 ancestors of the Heavenly Moon Empire, one of them had been personally slain by Su Ran. Now, only he remained. It's all over. It's all over. The Heavenly Moon Empire is done for. The old man became extremely dispirited. His eyes were filled with death and despair, along with deep regret. If our Heavenly Moon Empire abided to the Tian Yuan clan obediently, we definitely would have experienced a glorious future. In the end, the 2 of us personally discarded that. I regret it. I am filled with regret, the old man lamented. Ancestor, go. Don't stay here. Some God Kings from the Heavenly Moon Empire turned back and arrived beside the old man. They wanted to drag the old man away. The old man only waved his hand gently, and the God Kings were pushed away by a soft force. Go. Once you leave here, don't return to the Heavenly Moon Empire. You might be able to save yourselves like that. The old man stared into the distance at Inciting and Su Qi as they worked on saving Su Ran. His eyes were gloomy. Now that this had all happened, he knew that he could not avoid death. Even the young Star Lord would not be able to change anything. Even if the young Star Lord treated him, a mere Infinite Prime, as a big deal, even if the young Star Lord wanted to save him, there was nothing that he could do. The martial soul lineage definitely would not respect the young Star Lord's wishes. At the same time, a powerful killing intent appeared in the sky. Jian Chen, Bai Rufeng, and Qing Shan descended. Before they had even touched the ground, Jian Chen noticed the state of the provincial city. He saw the Tian Yuan clan that had its final formation destroyed, along with newbies who had reverted to his original form, covered in blood and hanging on by a thread. Jian Chen's eyes immediately became bloodshot as he emitted a cold killing intent that caused the surrounding temperature to plummet. Kill! At the same time, a thunderous cry rang out. A large number of cultivators charged out from the Tian Yuan clan. All of them were brimming with killing intent, hatred, and fury. They began to hunt down the cultivators from the Four Symbols Alliance and the Heavenly Moon Empire. Now that the tides had turned, the Tian Yuan clan had gone from defending reactively to gaining the upper hand. They finally began their counterattack. Chapter 2643, The Fate of Traitors, 1. The young Star Lord was the only person who did not flee. The reason why he did not flee was not because he was the foster son of the 9 brilliant Star Lord and was confident that no one would harm him given his identity. The reason was that he had been stunned by the sudden reversal. For a moment, he could only hover there blankly. He stared at the corpses of the 3 chaotic primes as they fell from the sky and failed to return to his senses. It was not because he could not accept all this. It had just happened far too quickly. All the formations of the Tian Yuan clan had fallen. Destroying the clan was only a matter of a few seconds, so the young Star Lord could already see victory. He had already been ready to see the destruction of the Tian Yuan clan and was thinking about the best way to capture Shangguan Mu'er alive. As a matter of fact, he was thinking about how he should ravage Shangguan Mu'er. However, he had never thought that in just a few seconds, the 3 chaotic primes he brought would all die, and all the cultivators who attacked the Tian Yuan clan would flee for their lives. The Tian Yuan clan that should have been destroyed already actually managed to make a turnaround with a crushing advantage. At that moment, he became all alone. All this happened in an extremely short amount of time. He had fallen from heaven to hell. It was impossible for the young Star Lord to not be heavily impacted. How did this happen? The young Star Lord murmured to himself. At that moment, he felt like he was dreaming, as if everything that had happened before him was not reality. But soon afterwards, he noticed Jian Chen, who descended from the sky and vanished into the Tian Yuan clan. He regained some confidence. As a matter of fact, some excitement and eagerness flashed through his eyes. Jian Chen, you've finally appeared. You've finally appeared before me. Although the people I brought retreated in defeat, the outcome earlier is no longer important as long as you've appeared, the young Star Lord murmured to himself. He suddenly became rather excited the moment he saw Jian Chen. At the same time, he carefully hid the life-bound plume the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance had given him. Mu'er, are you fine? Within the Tian Yuan clan, Jian Chen arrived before Shangguan Mu'er as quickly as he could. As he looked at her pale face and the blood at the corner of her lips, his heart immediately ached. He felt ashamed as well. He had brought Shangguan Mu'er back from the Daoist sect of divine sound to give her a happy, easy environment to cultivate in that far surpassed the Daoist sect of divine sound. However, he had never thought that he would have almost doomed her instead. Jian Chen, I'm fine. It's only some small wounds. Go check on Nubis. His wounds are far more severe than mine, said Shangguan Mu'er. She smiled as if a burden had been lifted from her. Shangguan Mu'er did not know whether the marshal's soul lineage could stop experts like Su Zhiping and Huangfu Yueji, as Jian Chen was in outer space earlier. As a result, she was very worried about his safety. Now that he had appeared before her unscathed, she could finally stop worrying. Jian Chen carefully examined Shangguan Mu'er's wounds. After discovering that they were not particularly severe, he felt slightly better. Afterwards, he personally fed a god-tier pill to her before immediately making his way over to Nubis. Jian Chen's face immediately became extremely sunken with what he saw. Nubis' wounds were far worse than he had imagined. Nubis was basically hanging on by a thread. He had a foot in the jaws of death already. Jian Chen fed Nubis the best pills that he had. He stood beside Nubis as he slowly looked around. When he saw the annihilated provincial city beyond the Tian Yuan clan, killing intent immediately erupted from the bottom of his heart like a volcano. Young Star Lord. Jian Chen stressed each syllable. At that moment, his killing intent towards the young Star Lord had already reached a point of no return. I've come for my punishment. At this moment, the only surviving ancestral emperor of the Heavenly Moon Empire arrived in the Tian Yuan clan. His eyes were hollow and filled with death as he stared at Jian Chen. Afterwards, he lowered his head before everyone in the Tian Yuan clan, discarding his pride as a primordial realm expert as he slowly knelt down. He was not kneeling away his personal pride, but the pride of the Heavenly Moon Empire as well. That was because he was the ancestral emperor of the Heavenly Moon Empire, the only remaining ancestor of the empire. Although a large number of people had already run off to hunt down the people who had fled, a portion of them still remained behind. Currently, all the members of the upper echelon, the guards, the servants, and so on stared at the old man who knelt down before Jian Chen in shock. It was completely silent. To all proud people, making them kneel was even more difficult than killing them, not to mention that the person currently kneeling was an ancestral emperor of the Heavenly Moon Empire. He was a supreme existence who possessed the power to decide their fates with a single word before the Tian Yuan clan had even been founded. At that moment, the ancestral emperor of an ancient empire, someone who possessed insurmountable status, had just knelt right before them. This astounded all the members of the Tian Yuan clan. As the patriarch of the Mo clan in the past and the current emperor of the Pingtian Empire, Mo Xingfeng stared at the ancestral emperor with mixed feelings from within the crowd. Several dozen years ago, he was still the measly patriarch of the Mo clan. Their strongest ancestor was only a god, while the Heavenly Moon Empire was like the ultimate ruler of the land he lived on, possessing boundless territory. The primordial realm ancestors of the Heavenly Moon Empire were existences he could not imagine. In less than a century, the ancestral emperor that Mo Xingfeng once believed to be insurmountable just knelt there like that. He felt amazed, unable to calm down for quite some time. Patriarch, I know my crimes. Everything is solely my fault. I'm willing to become a slave to make up for this mistake. I hope the patriarch can spare the Heavenly Moon Empire, the ancestral emperor said submissively. Do you think becoming a slave can make up for the betrayal of the Heavenly Moon Empire? Jian Chen did not waver. He stared at the ancestor of the Heavenly Moon Empire coldly as his eyes brimmed with killing intent. If my measly strength does not interest the patriarch, I am willing to die for the sake of the crime. I only hope the patriarch can be merciful and give our Heavenly Moon Empire a chance to redeem ourselves, continued the ancestor of the Heavenly Moon Empire. He had completely accepted death, feeling no fear towards it at all. The one thing he could not stop worrying about was the Heavenly Moon Empire. He was not afraid of death. Whether it be the Heavenly Moon Empire's betrayal earlier or him kneeling down now, it was all for the sake of the Empire's survival. However, he had misjudged the situation and personally pushed the Heavenly Moon Empire towards destruction. Chapter 2644, The Fate of Traitors, 2. Jian Chen's expression did not change. He said coldly, what happened recently makes me hate traitors even more. As long as you're a traitor, only one fate awaits you, and that's death. As he said that, Jian Chen used his fingers as a sword. A sharp strand of sword qi immediately shot out, stabbing towards the ancestor of the Heavenly Moon Empire's forehead. The sharp sword qi stabbed into the ancestor of the Heavenly Moon Empire's head mercilessly. From the very start till the end, the ancestor of the Heavenly Moon Empire did not resist, as he knew that all resistance was pointless. Not only would he still die, but it was also likely for him to infuriate Jian Chen further and hence burden the Heavenly Moon Empire. Before his death, he could only hope that his sincere feelings could move Jian Chen so that he would spare the Heavenly Moon Empire. Even just leaving behind some members of the imperial family would be enough. Of course, he did not receive any promise from Jian Chen. From that moment onwards, the Heavenly Moon Empire no longer possessed a single primordial realm expert. A rumble suddenly rang out from the sky. The formation that kept Su Ran trapped had shattered, exposing her old body surrounded by violent streams of energy. As soon as she broke free, she looked at the Tian Yuan clan in worry. When she saw how the clan was mostly fine, she immediately let out a sigh of relief. I can stop worrying now that you're here, Su Ran said to Inciting and Su Qi before looking into the distance. She could clearly see Qing Shan and Bai Ruffeng hunting down the fleeing primordial realm experts with her vision. Since the marshal's soul lineage had appeared, it was impossible for her to not know that they had gained the upper hand in the battle in outer space. I'll leave the matters here to you. We plan on providing reinforcements to the other battlefields, Inciting said to Su Ran before waving his hand. The bronze shield over the Tian Yuan clan immediately landed in his hands as a streak of light. It was Inciting who had taken action in that crucial moment, blocking the disaster for the Tian Yuan clan. Hee, aren't you in need of corpses, 8th Junior? Let us help you collect some. Su Qi giggled before leaving after bidding farewell to him. In terms of cultivation, Su Ran was the strongest present. She was even slightly stronger than Inciting, standing at the peak of the 5th heavenly layer. In terms of battle prowess, Su Ran was extremely powerful as well. Rarely would she come across an opponent at the same level of cultivation. She could challenge those at higher cultivation levels than her. However, in terms of killing people quickly, Su Ran was nowhere close to the marshal's soul lineage. Inciting and Su Qi left the southern region of the Cloud Plain. They went to the eastern, northern, and central regions that experienced even more intense conflict. Su Ran watched over the Tianyuan clan. Jianshan fed another pill to newbies inside the Tianyuan clan before taking a step and vanishing from there. When he reappeared, he had arrived before the young Star Lord. As he looked at the calm, fearless young Star Lord, Jian Chen's face sank. His gaze became extremely piercing. His surging killing intent seemed like it wanted to invade the young Star Lord's flesh, freeze up his blood, and annihilate his soul. That was how terrifying Jian Chen seemed at this moment. What a terrifying gaze. The young Star Lord's heart could not help but shiver. He felt a chilling feeling fill his body as his skin felt like it was being stabbed by countless swords. That did not mean he was afraid. Instead, it was just a regular reaction towards Jian Chen's terrifying killing intent. People who were nowhere near as powerful as Jian Chen would feel like this. This was how an expert could stifle those weaker than them. In the 1,000 years that the young Star Lord had lived, he had seen countless experts before, but this was the first time he had experienced such intense killing intent. All the experts he met in the past were polite to him, afraid of showing any neglect towards him. They were nothing like Jian Chen, who exposed his killing intent towards him. Ha 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 ha. Jian Chen, you seem to be extremely furious. Although I failed to destroy your Tianyuan clan with my own bare hands, I feel that it was all worth it now that I see how your present state. At the very least, I know that all the effort I used on your Tianyuan clan has led to some results. The young Star Lord endured Jian Chen's surging killing intent and scoffed. Do you really think I'm afraid of doing things to you just because you have a powerful father? It doesn't matter whose son you are today. I'll still kill you. This is you seeking death. Jian Chen said coldly. With that, sharp sword chi immediately condensed on him. Clearly, he was truly ready to kill. Su Ran had also arrived beside Jian Chen. She stared at the young Star Lord for a while before looking at Jian Chen. She could tell with a single glance that Jian Chen was truly ready to kill the young Star Lord. He was not considering about the 9 brilliant Star Lord at all. This made Su Ran hesitate. She was very furious as well, but she did not let her fury impact her judgment. She knew extremely well that Jian Chen would completely offend the 9 brilliant Star Lord if he killed the young Star Lord. The young Star Lord was the 9 brilliant Star Lord's only child. Even though he was just a foster son, he was still the person that the 9 brilliant Star Lord was closest to. However, after hesitating for a while, Su Ran still decided to let Jian Chen do what he wanted in the end. She did not interfere. This was because she was one of the few people who knew that the Anata Grand Exalt was still alive. As long as Grandmaster is alive, the 9 brilliant Star Lord won't be able to create much trouble, thought Su Ran. The young Star Lord seemed to treat Jian Chen's words as the most hilarious joke in the world. He could not help but burst out laughing. You want to kill me? Jian Chen, you probably don't have that capability, as the person who will be dying today is you, not me. With that, the young Star Lord immediately flipped his hand, and an azure feather silently appeared. He activated the power hidden within it as quickly as he could, without any hesitation at all. Immediately, a power terrifying to both Jian Chen and Su Ran erupted from the feather. The terrifying pressure crushed down on Jian Chen like an invisible mountain, making Jian Chen feel his body sink. He found breathing difficult as his actions became abnormally sluggish. Be careful. Su Ran's expression changed drastically as she immediately cried out. She had no courage in fending off this attack at all as she faced this terrifying pulse of power. She wanted to escape with Jian Chen. However, it was already too late. Even though Su Ran was very fast, the azure feather was even faster. It shone with a dazzling azure light, seemingly bypassing space and shooting towards Jian Chen with terrifying speed that could surpass anything. Immediately, a flash of azure light illuminated the world. The feather seemed to become the only existence in the world. Before it, space seized up and time froze. Everything fell silent. Only it could move through this quiet space. This was a strange scene created from being too fast. The heavy threat of death filled Jian Chen's entire soul. His pupils immediately shrank to the size of pins, but there was nothing he could do against the azure light. He could only watch it shine with dazzling light as its reflection in his eyes rapidly expanded. It was simply too fast, so fast that he could not even react in time. He could not use the laws of space, nor could he fuse the twin swords. He could only wait as the shade of death rapidly approached him. Chapter 2645. Heartless interferes. Jian Chen was extremely shocked. He could no longer recall the last time he experienced such an intense sense of danger. Even though he had gone through a lot of danger in the past, he could basically still see a sliver of chance to resist or flee before those dangers. At worst, he would still have some time to think. However, not only was the danger this time sudden, but it was also incredibly fast. He truly did not even have a moment to react. He could not even move a finger. The speed of the azure feather had surpassed everything. Even if Jian Chen possessed things that could save his life, he would not have the time to use it before such speed. Clearly, after the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance failed in the past because of the Inata Tower, he made countermeasures. When he borrowed the young Star Lord to eliminate Jian Chen, he was worried that Jian Chen would possess some kind of trump card he did not know about, so he planned on using his life-bound plume to erupt with extreme speed. He wanted to kill Jian Chen so quickly that most primordial realm experts would not be able to react. My life-bound plume has been activated. At the same time, the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance sat on a barren meteor in a region of space extremely distant from the cloud plane. He allowed the meteor to move at great speeds, taking him towards an unknown place. Suddenly, the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance sensed something. He immediately stood up as his sparkling, jade-green eyes stared in the direction of the cloud plane brightly. When the rain Abbess clashed with the blue sky Venerable earlier, the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance chose to back off rapidly without any hesitation even though he was extremely far away from the cloud plane. He backed off to an even more distant region of space and waited there silently. As a result, he could no longer see the cloud plane anymore. However, his excited and eager gaze seemed to be able to pierce through space, and Jian Chen's figure was actually reflected in his eyes the moment his life-bound plume was activated. After the life-bound plume was activated, it basically turned into an eye, allowing him to see its surroundings. Jian Chen, there has never been a single person who has offended me and avoided a bad fate. You are no different. The person who kills you this time is the foster son of the 9 brilliant Star Lord. It's got nothing to do with me. The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance sneered. He had many excuses to distance himself from Jian Chen's death such that he would be uninvolved. He could let the young Star Lord and 9 brilliant Star Lord bear all the responsibility and consequences. He had only given something to the young Star Lord to save his life for the sake of the 9 brilliant Star Lord. How the young Star Lord used it had nothing to do with him. You escaped time and time again in the past. I would like to see how you escape this time. And in Ata Grand Exalt, Jian Chen's death has nothing to do with me. I didn't kill him. The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance's sneer became even heavier. Using people to kill for him was just too perfect. But very soon, the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance's smile froze. His entire body stiffened. Outside the Tianyuan clan in the southern region, a small arm extended out from the space there extremely suddenly. The small arm was extremely white and soft, just like an infant's. It only seemed to be the size of a fist. The owner of the arm was definitely a young child. However, the power of ways condensed on the small arm, resonating with the universe. Every single action it made could affect the power of the laws of the world. Afterwards, he closed his hand in a fashion that was not particularly fast. With that, the space there suddenly contracted. It felt like the hand had grabbed the entire region of space. The feather that rapidly shot through the space there was naturally unable to avoid it. In the end, the young Star Lord's greatest trump card for killing Jian Chen, the life-bound plume from the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance, had been caught easily by the hand. No, it could not be described as easily, but casually. Indeed, The hand had only closed itself casually, but it froze up the space there and effortlessly trapped the high-speed feather. Afterwards, a child in red robes appeared before Jian Chen silently. He was not tall, only barely reaching Jian Chen's chest. He stood with his back to Jian Chen as he studied the feather in his hand with interest. At the same time, the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance stood on his meteor with a darkened face. The red-robed child's face appeared in his eyes. Just as the child looked at the life-bound plume, their eyes seemed to meet across the tremendous distance. They stared each other down. The Heartless Child. The Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance gnashed his teeth. His joyous expression immediately became extremely ugly. There was even deep fear. There were extremely few people that the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance dared not provoke in the Saints' world. Apart from the 9th Heavenly Layer Grand Primes, there were only a few extremely terrifying existences. The Heartless Child was one of them. Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance, you're still a little inexperienced to kill someone before me. The Heartless Child sniggered slightly like he was toying with the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance. After that, he gently clenched his hand. With a slight bang, the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance's life-bound plume exploded in the Heartless Child's hand. Terrifying energy immediately leaked out from the feather, pouring out between the Heartless Child's fingers as dazzling light. However, this terrifying energy that could even collapse space remained trapped in the Heartless Child's hand. Not even a sliver of it managed to leak out. As Su Ran stood to one side and witnessed this all, her eyes narrowed. She was shocked. The strength that the Heartless Child had displayed shocked her. "Senior, it's you?" Jian Chen stared at the Heartless Child's back. He had a deep impression of this tiny figure. However, when he discovered the terrifying energy trapped in the child's hand, he could not help but show shock. When he met this child in a branch of the Myriad Bone Guild, he had thought he was just a regular member. When he was destroyed the Gloomwater sect afterwards, Jian Chen managed to witness the Heartless Child's strength for the first time when he managed to kill a 9th Heavenly Layer Chaotic Prime instantly whilst remaining hidden. But now, such terrifying energy actually remained trapped within the Heartless Child's hands. None of it leaked out. Such strength threw Jian Chen into emotional turmoil. He could not calm down. Originally, he thought the Heartless Child was only a regular Grand Prime back at the Gloomwater sect. However, given what he saw today, the Heartless Child's strength was clearly not something that a regular Grand Prime could possess. He had never thought that the child he had met in a branch of the Myriad Bone Guild would be such a terrifying expert. At this moment, the Heartless Child clenched his hand again. With that, a miniature black hole immediately appeared within his hands. All of the violent energy was sucked away. Chapter 2646, The Young Star Lord's Death in the Blink of an Eye. The Heartless Child easily nullified the threat from the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance's life-bound plume. The young Star Lord clearly saw all of this, and his face suddenly hardened as a result. The young Star Lord also became extremely shocked when he witnessed the Heartless Child nullify the Heavenly King of Azure Brilliance's attack so effortlessly. He even felt disbelief. Who are you? Why do you get in my way? Don't you know who my father is?" The young Star Lord looked at the Heartless Child in complete fear as he subconsciously staggered backwards. The Heartless Child did not give off any pulses of energy. He seemed just like a neighborhood kid, but the young Star Lord felt fear from the bottom of your soul. "Isn't your foster father the 9 Brilliant Star Lord from the Star Brilliance plane? Others fear him, but I don't. Your foster father will naturally know who I am," the Heartless Child said with great indifference, without taking the young Star Lord seriously at all. The identity that the young Star Lord took pride in was worth nothing before the Heartless Child. "Why, you're not even afraid of my father." The young Star Lord's face changed. In the 1,000 years he had lived, no matter where he went, no matter how powerful the expert he encountered was, he would be able to stun them as long as he mentioned his father's name. This young child was the only person out of all the experts he had met to not fear his foster father. He could vaguely sense that the child had probably reached the same level as his foster father. Even if he had not, he was definitely close. Jian Chen, you better deal with the matters here first. I'll return in a few days. I have something important to tell you then. With that, the Heartless child suddenly vanished. With the Heartless child's departure, Jian Chen immediately looked at the young Star Lord. His cold gaze and terrifying killing intent made the young Star Lord shiver. Jian Chen, you got lucky this time. The young Star Lord shivered inside. Now that he had used up everything, he felt very unconfident as he faced Jian Chen. He threw that out there with great reluctance before turning around to leave. Do you still think you can leave before me? Jian Chen appeared before the young Star Lord silently, blocking his path. The 9-star sword of heavenly ways slowly appeared in his hand. As he poured energy into it, illusionary stars appeared one after another. The terrifying pressure was enough to kick up the dust in the surroundings. You're only a god king. It won't be degrading for you to die under my 9-star sword of heavenly ways, Jian Chen said slowly. He gave off sharp sword chi as he firmly locked onto the young Star Lord. You want to kill me? The young Star Lord's expression changed drastically with that. At that moment, he finally lost his composure. He began to panic. A feeling that he had never felt before silently permeated his heart, filling his mind completely very soon. It made him tremble gently. This was fear towards death. My foster father is the 9 brilliant Star Lord. If you even touch a hair on me, my foster father will never space you. Even the heavenly palace of Biyao can't bear the wrath of my foster father, the young Star Lord said fearfully. His pupils gradually shrank. In particular, when he saw Jian Chen slowly raise his sword, the young Star Lord's heart trembled even more. Even his feet shook. Father, save me, father. The young Star Lord finally started to fear for his life before Jian Chen's killing intent. All of his confidence and composure collapsed in that moment. He felt for his life with a pale face. At that very moment, Jian Chen stabbed out. His sword seemed to fuse with space such that the tip vanished as soon as he stabbed out. It suddenly appeared out of thin air right in front of the young Star Lord in an extremely strange fashion. The young Star Lord, who had fled for his life, directly ran into the sharp tip of the 9-star sword of heavenly ways. Spurt. The sharp tip stabbed into the young Star Lord's chest mercilessly. Terrifying sword chi immediately swept through his entire body, severing all his organs and veins. Even his soul failed to escape. The young Star Lord's eyes were wide. His face was filled with disbelief. All the way until his death, he struggled to believe that someone would actually kill him. The foster son of the 9 brilliant Star Lord, Tian Yao, was dead. Han Zong, Chu Jian, and Yu Chao, who had gained the upper hand in their battle against the Four Symbols Alliance, also discovered the young Star Lord's death. It immediately made the three of them become stern. Finish the battle fast. Han Zong called out. Immediately, Yu Chao and Chu Jian unleashed their full strength. The young Star Lord has actually died. The expressions of the peak experts of the Four Symbols Alliance became extremely ugly. The young Star Lord was their source of confidence because he was what tied them to the 9 brilliant Star Lord. Now that this tie had been severed, all of their previous efforts were rendered useless. It was not just that. There was even the possibility that they would have to bear the wrath of the 9 brilliant Star Lord. None of the peak experts on the Cloud Plane could claim that they were not responsible for the young Star Lord's death. The Righteous Alliance was close with the Tian Yuan clan. Perhaps they could receive care from the heavenly palace of Biyao, but their Four Symbols Alliance did not possess such a powerful backing. At that moment, the hearts of the peak experts from the Four Symbols Alliance utterly sank. Bang! Jian Chen tossed the young Star Lord's corpse onto the ground inside the Tian Yuan clan. Now that the young Star Lord was dead, his killing intent finally began to dissolve. The people of the Tian Yuan clan immediately gathered over. They all stared at the young Star Lord's corpse with mixed feelings. None of them uttered a word. They all remained silent. Although the person behind the upheaval on the cloud plane was dead, none of them could light up. Instead, the atmosphere had become rather heavy. They had all heard some things about the young Star Lord's identity during this time. Now that someone so important had died here, they all knew what would happen next. Jian Chen, what do you plan on doing next? Shangguan Mu'er arrived beside Jian Chen and asked softly. She could imagine the severe consequences of the young Star Lord's death. After all, he was the foster son of the 9 Brilliant Star Lord, and the 9 Brilliant Star Lord's only child. The 9 Brilliant Star Lord's wrath was more terrifying than any destructive storm. The Tianyuan clan was as powerless as a baby before it. I plan on taking the Tianyuan clan to the Prosper Plain, said Jian Chen. He dared to kill the young Star Lord because he still possessed great merit with the heavenly palace of Bisheng. He could use this merit to exchange for a special piece of territory on the Prosper Plain and get the heavenly palace of Bisheng to protect the Tianyuan clan. Chapter 2647, Dao Jiu. The Tianyuan clan remained silently. No one felt excited at all over Jian Chen's suggestion to move the Tianyuan clan to the Prosper Plain. The Prosper Plain was one of the 7 sacred plains of the Saints' world. Its cultivation resources were plentiful, and its environment was on a whole different level compared to the Cloud Plain. However, they had lived on the Cloud Plain for so many years after all. To them, the Cloud Plain was their home. Many of them felt a sense of belonging towards this home. Now that they had to leave this home with no idea whether they could return in the future, all of them were filled with mixed feelings. Moreover, the Tianyuan clan was renowned on the Cloud Plain. Especially after this war, the situation on the Cloud Plain would be reduced to a clean slate. The rise of the Tianyuan clan that had stood up and turned the tides would be unstoppable. If they left the Cloud Plain, all the glory and status that awaited them would be gone as well. Many of the high-ranking members found this to be a great pity. The emperor of the Pingtian Empire, Mo Xingfeng, secretly sighed as well. If it were possible, he did not want to leave the Cloud Plain either. No matter how great the Prosper Plain was, he felt no urge for it at all. The Tianyuan clan was an existence that could reign over everyone on the Cloud Plain. What would the Tianyuan clan be on the Prosper Plain? Jian Chen, we can discuss this in the future. A mysterious senior has come to our Tianyuan clan. He helped me earlier, so let's go see this senior. At this moment, Shangguan Mu'er's voice rang out in Jian Chen's head. Shangguan Mu'er had communicated with Jian Chen secretly, so no one else knew. A senior? You mean the senior that appeared just then? Didn't he already leave? Jian Chen looked at Shangguan Mu'er in surprise. Shangguan Mu'er shook her head. She looked at the depths of the Tianyuan clan. No, it's another senior. This senior is still in the Tianyuan clan. I can vaguely sense his location. Jian Chen's eyes suddenly narrowed. He immediately expanded the senses of his soul, enveloping the entire clan in an instant. However, even after scouring the entire place, he found nothing at all. My soul became extraordinary ever since it fused with a strand of true chaotic force a long time ago. Even cultivators several levels more powerful than me cannot hide from my search. It looks like the senior that Mu'er speaks of is extraordinary. Jian Chen was secretly surprised. Afterwards, he passed some matters on to Shiyu about the cleanup of the Tianyuan clan and the provincial city before disappearing into the depths of the Tianyuan clan with Shangguan Mu'er. Shangguan Mu'er could vaguely sense the position of this senior. She made many turns in the clan with Jian Chen. Eventually, they arrived in a quiet place in the depths of the clan. They were already within the forbidden grounds of the Tianyuan clan. Only a few people who possessed great authority could enter this area. Usually, the security was tight, but as the Tianyuan clan had been in danger recently, the guards here had been reassigned elsewhere. As a result, not a single person could be seen in this huge region. Only a few birds and beasts raised by the clan could be seen scurrying about. In the end, Jian Chen arrived at a stone pavilion under Shangguan Mu'er's lead. The stone pavilion was situated near a mountain and water. The mountain was a small one they had moved in from the outside world, while the water referred to a small pond that had been dug out here. The surroundings were filled with lush vegetation as mist curled about. It was an extremely beautiful place. Jian Chen's eyes suddenly narrowed. He discovered with a single glance that a figure sat within the stone pavilion. He was a young man in violet robes. He only seemed to be around 30 years of age. He was extremely handsome and gave off a heroic spirit. However, he did not give off any presence at all, not even the slightest trace of life. As he swept past this young man, he found nothing. He could only discover this young man's existence with his eyes. The young man currently sat at the stone table. A teapot was placed on the table, giving off a curling strand of steam. It gave off a refreshing fragrance. It was an extremely precious type of tea. Just a single whiff of it was enough to determine that it was at the god tier at the very least. The young man just sat there, taking things easily as he tried the tea. Jian Chen became stern. He could tell with a single glance that this young man was unfathomable. He was immeasurable. He never thought such a terrifying expert would actually come to the Tian Yuan clan. I am the patriarch of the Tian Yuan clan, Jian Chen. Greetings to senior. Greetings to senior. Thank you for saving my life earlier. Jian Chen and Shangguan Mu'er arrived before the man in violet. They both clasped their fists and were very polite. The man did not pay any attention to Jian Chen. As a matter of fact, he did not even glance at Jian Chen. His gaze remained fixed on Shangguan Mu'er the entire time. He studied her carefully and mixed feelings gradually appeared in his eyes. I heard the zither of the demonic cry is with you. I would like to see the zither, said the violet-robed man. His voice was extremely gentle, such that it was comforting. People could not help but develop a good impression of him. The light in Jian Chen's eyes flickered as he sank into his thoughts with that. He could roughly tell why this man had come. He might have been someone from the same age as the third ancestor of the Daoist sect of divine sound. Shangguan Mu'er did not hesitate. The simple zither of the demonic cry immediately appeared in her hands. As soon as the man saw the zither, his eyes froze. He stared at it blankly as he became dazed. The zith was like a key to a series of memories he had sealed up a long time ago. Reminiscence filled his eyes, along with faint sorrow. Zither of the demonic cry, O zither of the demon cry. I've finally seen the zither of the demonic cry again, the man murmured. At that moment, his heart, which had remained silent for who knows how long, that would not move no matter what happened, actually pulsed. He felt something. With a gentle wave of his hand, the zither of the demonic cry drifted over, hovering right before him. His gaze was filled with mixed emotions as he stared at the zither like he was cherishing his memories. He said sorrowfully, the zither of the demonic cry is still here, but you are not. As if the man had thought of something sorrowful from the past, he seemed to be in extremely sad, low spirits. Shangguan Mu'er stared at the man in a strange light. She asked rather eagerly, Senior, do you know Master? She had received the legacy of the third ancestor. Even though Shangguan Mu'er had never seen the third ancestor, or even possessed any impression of her, she treated the third ancestor as her master. Now that she finally met an acquaintance of her master, Shangguan Mu'er was delighted. I know her. I don't just know her. She's the only woman who made me fall in love in my life, the man murmured very softly in undisguisable pain. There was a slight sense of pity as well. But very soon, the man suppressed all his emotions and returned to the same as before. He looked at Shangguan Mu'er gently and said amiably, You're called Shangguan Mu'er, right? Since you're her only disciple, I definitely have to nurture you well so that you can mature in the shortest amount of time possible. Come with me. From today onwards, you'll be able to cultivate peacefully in the Dao clan. The Dao clan? Senior, you're from the Dao clan? However, as soon as she heard him mention the Dao clan, Shangguan Mu'er's expression immediately changed. The man nodded. He treated Shangguan Mu'er extremely well, as if she was the closest person to him. I'm called Dao Jiu. I am indeed from the Dao clan. Shangguan Mu'er, I already know that you experienced a conflict with a junior of my Dao clan. You don't have to worry. If you come back with me, I will give you a satisfying explanation. Chapter 2648, Advice. This time, before Shangguan Mu'er could reply, Jian Chen declined for her. Thank you for your kind intentions, senior, but Junior already has plans regarding Mu'er's future cultivation. Junior plans on sending her to the heavenly palace of Bisheng. After learning that Dao Jiu came from the Dao clan, Jian Chen decided to stop Mu'er from going with him. He did not make this decision because he felt grievances towards the Dao clan. Instead, it was because of the primeval divine hall sealed within the world of grand clarity. The primeval divine hall had been sealed up by the Dao Union saint from the aeon before the last. They resented each other. Jian Chen had always been thinking about the primeval divine hall. He had already made up his mind to return to the world of grand clarity and become the master of the primeval divine hall as soon as he collected 10 droplets of essence blood from saints. It was extremely likely for the Dao clan, one of the Archean clans of the saints' world, to come from the Dao Union saint. As a result, Jian Chen was extremely worried that the grievances between the Saint of Grand Clarity and the Dao Union Saint would be inherited by him and the Dao clan if he obtained the primeval divine hall. Even if such a matter was not particularly likely, Jian Chen wanted to maintain his distance from the Dao clan. The heavenly palace of Bisheng, Dao Jiu murmured, and he frowned slightly. He glanced at Jian Chen with some displeasure. Originally, he did not plan to waste words on this topic. However, when he considered that Shangguan Mu'er was the only successor of the woman he loved and how he wanted to take Shangguan Mu'er back to the Dao clan to take care of her, he could only say, the heavenly palace of Bisheng is indeed more powerful than our Dao clan, and our Dao clan cannot be compared to them in terms of resources. However, Shangguan Mu'er, if you really do go to the heavenly palace of Bisheng, they won't spend too many resources on you. On the other hand, in my Dao clan, I will nurture you as a direct disciple of mine. As a result, the Dao clan is more suitable than the heavenly palace of Bisheng for you. You will benefit even more in the Dao clan. Mu'er is extremely grateful for Senior's kindness, but Mu'er has already made up her mind about accompanying Jian Chen in the future. Mu'er does not wish to go elsewhere. Shangguan Mu'er did not waver at all. She declined without hesitation. Dao Jiu could tell with a single glance that Shangguan Mu'er had already made up her mind, and she was not interested in the various benefits the Dao clan could offer. If that's the case, I won't force it on you. If you think it through in the future, just crush this jade talisman. I will send people to fetch you. My Dao clan welcomes you at any time. Dao Jiu extended a finger, and the corner of a jade talisman immediately condensed out of nothing. From the corner, it rapidly appeared. Very soon, a palm-sized, exquisite talisman appeared before Shangguan Mu'er. A pattern of primal simplicity was engraved on one side, while the other side had the word, Dao, that seemed to contain endless mysteries. Creating something from nothing. Jian Chen was surprised when he saw this. He could tell with a single glance that the jade talisman had not been pre-constructed. Instead, it had been created by Dao Jiu through his abilities. Moreover, what he created was no ordinary jade talisman. It possessed the presence of the ways, something extraordinary that hid profound power. Just creating a jade talisman was nothing difficult, but creating something that possessed such a profound presence of ways was miraculous. That alone was enough to demonstrate just how astonishingly skilled Dao Jiu was. His comprehension of the laws of the world had reached an extremely astonishing level. If you come across any powerful opponent in the future, you can just take out the jade talisman. It's not a treasure for defense, but it does represent me to a certain degree. However, not everyone can recognize this jade talisman. You'll need to deal with the people who can't yourselves, but those who can should show some respect towards me. Dao Jiu looked at Jian Chen. He did not treat Jian Chen as amiably as Shangguan Mu'er. He seemed rather cold as he said, I know you've returned the Inata Tower and gained great merit for your service to the heavenly palace of Bisheng. However, for the sake of Shangguan Mu'er, let me give you a piece of advice. The heavenly palace of Bishing isn't as great as you imagine them to be. Sending Shangguan Mu'er to the heavenly palace of Bishing may not necessarily be a good idea. As for your so-called Tian Yuan clan, if you want it to continue to thrive, don't go to the Prosper Plain. I know you are worried about the 9 brilliant Star Lord, but you can relax about that. As long as you're still alive, he won't dare to do anything. With that, Dao Jiu vanished. He left silently and did not leave a single trace behind. He had already departed. Dao Jiu had left, but Jian Chen did not get any peace at all. He sank into his thoughts after hearing Dao Jiu's words at the very end. He also became extremely stern. He did not know who Dao Jiu was. However, given the man's great cultivation, he could have easily taken Shangguan Mu'er away, but he chose not to. Instead, he respected Shangguan Mu'er's choice. That alone changed Jian Chen's opinion of Dao Jiu slightly. Someone like that definitely would not lie. Since he had said sending Shangguan Mu'er to the heavenly palace of Bishing was not necessarily a good idea, there was definitely a reason for it. Jian Chen had to ponder deeply about his words regarding the Tian Yuan clan. Dao Jiu's words clearly revealed one fact: the Prosper Plain was not a blessing to the Tian Yuan clan. At this moment, several powerful presences descended upon the Tian Yuan clan, breaking Jian Chen's train of thought. The battle in outer space had already ended. Han Zong, Chu Jian, and Yu Chao had returned to the Tian Yuan clan together. Tong Wuming, Zhou Zhidao, Lian Wuji, and the Lord of the Heavens Link Peak had left separately. The battles in the other regions still needed them. Jian Chen temporarily cast aside Dao Jiu's words and arrived at the front with Shangguan Mu'er. He saw several corpses with a single glance. They belonged to Wu Lu, Gong Ji, and Chang Fengyun. Unfortunately, I let the Gentle Breeze ancestor escape, Han Zong said in pity. The Gentle Breeze ancestor was the strongest expert of the Four Symbols Alliance. Prior to their battle, Han Zong had drained half his martial soul force with the heaven-severing technique before becoming heavily injured. It was very difficult for him to stop the Gentle Breeze ancestor from escaping while not being at his peak condition. First senior brother, second senior brother, third senior brother, it's all thanks to you that we won this war. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't even be able to keep the Tian Yuan clan safe. Please come in and rest. Jian Chen clasped his fist. We better return to the Mountain Soul instead. We can rest and heal up better there. However, the 9 brilliant Star Lord will definitely fly into a fury with the young Star Lord's death. You can't stay on the Cloud Plain any longer. You have to return to the Martial Soul Mountain with us immediately, Han Zong said sternly. They felt very pressured by the 9 brilliant Star Lord. He was a 9th heavenly layer Grand Prime after all. Before such an expert, they could only depend on the Martial Soul Mountain. If we had 7 people like before, stopping the 9 brilliant Star Lord would probably be rather difficult, but we already possess 8 people now. As a result, the power of the Martial Soul Mountain will become even more powerful. The Martial Soul Mountain should be able to stop the 9 brilliant Star Lord now, said Yu Chao. Chapter 2649. The war ends. Little junior brother, let the people of the Tian Yuan clan stay in the Neptunian Divine Palace for now. I'm afraid that the 9 brilliant Star Lord will direct his wrath onto the Tian Yuan clan, Chu Jian added. It was impossible for their martial soul lineage to fend off an expert like the 9 brilliant Star Lord with the strength that they possessed. They could only hide on the Martial Soul Mountain. The Martial Soul Mountain was the Martial Soul lineage's final and toughest line of defense. As they conversed, Inciting and Su Qi returned from outside. Clearly, they had gone through an intense battle because they were now covered in blood. However, it was not their blood, but the blood of enemies. Moreover, the two of them seemed rather exhausted. This was the result of overusing martial soul force. What? 8th junior brother, you really killed the young Star Lord? Inciting and Su Qi had not learned of the young Star Lord's death yet. They were stunned when they received the news. However, that was all. They did not blame Jian Chen. As Han Zong had said, their martial soul lineage would not go looking for trouble, but that did not mean they were afraid of trouble. They were rather similar to Jian Shen in this aspect. Ha ha ha, good job killing him. How can you not kill him after he has harassed you like this? If you're so hesitant and fearful, that won't match up to how our martial soul lineage does things. Inciting laughed aloud. He was at great ease, casting a gaze of commendation towards Jian Shen. Call back 7th and 6th junior brother. The young Star Lord is dead, so the 9 brilliant Star Lord will never just drop the matter. We need to return to the Martial Soul Mountain immediately, Su Qi said sternly. The successors of the Martial Soul lineage were all very stern. They planned on returning to the Martial Soul Mountain as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Jian Shen, the source of all of this, seemed very composed. However, he did understand the thoughts and feelings of his seniors. There really were not many people in the Saints' world who could bear the wrath of the 9 brilliant Star Lord. After all, he was a terrifying existence who had reached the apex of the world, only second to Grand Exalts who were literally the heavenly ways themselves. Even renowned peak organizations in the Saints' world would not be able to avoid destruction if they offended such an expert. However, based on what Dao Jiu told him, Jian Shen did not worry too much about the 9 brilliant Star Lord's revenge. As a result, he was calm and composed. Seniors, you don't have to worry about me. Recently, a senior from the Dao clan visited our Tian Yuan clan. He said that due to some reasons, the 9 brilliant Star Lord won't touch the Tian Yuan clan anytime soon, said Jian Shen. Although this was the first time he had seen Dao Jiu, he believed that Dao Jiu definitely was not someone who would trick him. What? The Dao clan? One of the Archean clans, the Dao clan? Han Zong and the others were surprised when they heard that. Any organization referred to as an Archean clan would have existed for an entire aeon at the very least. They were tremendous, immovable existences in the Saints' world. They feared nothing and could even scorn the world. This was because no one, apart from Grand Exalts, could do anything to them. Seeing Jian Shen nod, Han Zong immediately followed up with another question. What was his name? Dao Jiu, replied Jian Shen. Dao Jiu? Han Zong murmured as his brows furrowed in thought. Afterwards, he shook his head gently. Although the Dao clan is reclusive, they haven't completely contact cut off from the outside world. I've basically heard of all their peak experts who possess some renown, but Dao Jiu isn't among them. Perhaps he's one of the few people that I don't know. However, any Archean clan in the Saints' world is far more terrifying than the 9 brilliant Star Lord. It's just that basically all of them are reclusive. Rarely do they show themselves in the Saints' world, so barely anyone knows about their existence. Han Zong paused. After careful consideration, he said, since this comes from an expert of an Archean clan, the information is trustworthy. Of course, you should still be more careful. Afterwards, Qing Shan and Bai Rufeng returned to the Tian Yuan clan together. However, they did not stay for long. They left with Han Zong and everyone else after a short conversation with Jian Shen, returning to the Martial Soul Mountain to prepare for the worst-case scenario. Jian Shen remained in the Tian Yuan clan. He did not return to the Martial Soul Mountain with everyone else. After all, the Cloud Plain was where the Tian Yuan clan's foundations lay. Especially after these continuous trials, its foundation had become extremely sturdy. He just needed to wait for the clan to grow and blossom, so he really did not wish to take the Tian Yuan clan away from the Cloud Plain unless he had to. Jian Shen lowered his head to glance at the space rings he was holding. These space rings were given to him by Han Zong, Su Qi, and Qing Shan before they left. They did not hold any treasures, instead, they contained the corpses he required. Jian Shen, what do we do next? Do we leave the Cloud Plain? Qing Yidao arrived before Jian Shen. She was not very affected at all. She had not spent a long time in the Tian Yuan clan, so she did not feel a fierce sense of belonging to it. She felt nothing towards the Cloud Plain either, so she did not really care about whether they left or stayed. All the people gathered there looked over after hearing Qing Yishuan's question. They were all nervous and uneasy. Most of them did not want to leave, but they knew that this was not a decision for them to make. It would be up to Jian Chen. That was all because Jian Chen was everything to the Tianyuan clan. After some thought, Jian Chen called out, "Mo Xingfeng." Patriarch. Mo Xingfeng immediately stepped forward from the crowd, clasping his fist at Jian Chen. "Immediately go and retake the territory of the Pingtian Empire. Rebuild the empire," ordered Jian Chen. Mong Xingfeng beamed from that. Jian Chen's orders had just announced to everyone that the Tianyuan clan would not be leaving the Cloud Plain. Immediately, many of the members of the upper echelon were overjoyed. Of course, some of them were worried about the 9 brilliant Star Lords' vengeance. Are Protector Shui, Protector Xing, Protector Bai, and Protector Mei present? Jian Chen called out. Patriarch. The 4 protectors all stood forward and greeted Jian Chen politely. Assist Mo Xingfeng in retaking the lands of the Pingtian Empire. Rebuild the Pingtian Empire as quickly as possible. Yes, Patriarch, the 4 protectors replied. Shiyu, you will be responsible for repairing the Tianyuan clan and rebuilding the provincial city, Jian Chen then said to Shiyu. Patriarch, what should we do with the Heavenly Moon Empire? Shiyu asked. The Heavenly Moon Empire's betrayal had completely infuriated her. Now that the Tianyuan clan had regained power, the first thing she thought of was the Heavenly Moon Empire. Deal with the Heavenly Moon Empire however you want. After handing over roughly everything, Jian Chen became the irresponsible leader again, paying no more attention to the repair and operation of the Tianyuan clan. He left it all to Shi Yu and the upper echelon of the Tianyuan clan to handle. He arrived in the forbidden grounds of the Tianyuan clan with Shangguan Mu'er and the heavily injured newbies. He took out various god-tier pills to assist newbies' healing. At the same time, the tides turned in the intense battles in the central, eastern, and northern regions with Tong Wuming, Zhou Zhidao, and Lian Wuji's return. The armies of the 4 Symbols Alliance immediately collapsed before the 3 Grand Primes. All the chaotic primes were slain. Without any Grand Primes, the 4 Symbols Alliance immediately collapsed. Over 80% of their primordial realm experts were slain. Having run out of choices in the end, they surrendered to the Righteous Alliance. The Righteous Alliance did not slaughter the entire 4 Symbols Alliance. They accepted the surrender from their lingering forces, and all the cultivators who survived became prisoners. Now, the Cloud Plain, which had fallen into upheaval after the Heavenless Demon Exalt, had finally settled down completely. The entire plain became just as peaceful as before. Chapter 2650. The Lord of Heaven's Link Peak's fate. The Cloud Plain had settled down, but the scars of war would not close up in a short time. Apart from that, the Cloud Plain had suffered great losses as well. Their overall strength plummeted, probably becoming the weakest plane out of the 49 planes of the Saints' world. The number of Grand Primes across the Cloud Plain had plummeted to 4. Only Tong Wuming of the Tong family, Lian Wuji of the Fire God clan, Zhou Zhidao of the Cosmic Sect, and the Lord of the Heavens Link Peak remained. The former 3 were heavily injured, making it very difficult for them to make a full recovery in a short amount of time. In particular, back when Lian Wuji was forced into dire straits by the 4 Symbols Alliance, he had burned his own essence blood without any hesitation at all because of his fiery temper. As a result, he directly injured the core of his body such that his strength would be affected. It would even have a certain influence over his future cultivation. Lian Wuji was not even the one who suffered the worst injuries. Although he had injured the very core of his body, there was still a chance of recovery given some time and heavenly resources. Compared to the Lord of the Heavens Link Peak, the injuries he suffered were akin to scratches. As the Lord of the Heavens Link Peak's body was eaten away by the curse, it had been completely corrupted. He had to abandon it. Originally, the Lord of the Heavens Link Peak could completely suppress the curse and slow its spread. Even if he could not nullify it, he could still last much longer. The more time he had, the more likely it was for him to completely nullify it. However, the situation on the cloud plain had suddenly changed. When he saw Tong Wuming, Zhou Zhidao, and Lian Wuji be beaten to a point where they basically could not even fight back, he struck out without any hesitation. He stopped suppressing his curse to use his full strength in a battle against the Gentle Breeze ancestor just to keep him busy. If it were not for the selfless sacrifice of the Lord of the Heavens Linked Peak, it would have been impossible for Tong Wuming, Zhou Zhidao, and Lian Wuji to last until the martial soul lineage came. One or two of them would have died at the very least. Not only were they individually weaker, but they were even at a numerical disadvantage. The difference was rather significant. On that day, Tong Wuming, Zhou Zhidao, and Lian Wuji did not bother with healing, dragging their wounded bodies to the top of the Heavens Linked Peak. Even Jian Chen and Su Ran were there. At that moment, the 4 peak organizations that basically represented the entire cloud plain had gathered there. Although the Tianyuan clan's heritage was lacking, and their strongest member was only Su Ran, no one could ignore their status even if they did not depend on the heavenly palace of Bisheng. Even though the current Tianyuan clan lacked strength, they could stand on the same level as the Tong family, the Cosmic Sect, and the Fire God clan. Their position could even be higher. Before the 5 of them was the illusionary Lord of the Heavens Linked Peak. This was the Peak Lord's soul. He had already abandoned his body, surviving in the form of a soul. However, even with that being the case, the Peak Lord still did not manage to break away from the curse. A green thread extended from his dantian in his soul. It was like the thread was reaching towards the Peak Lord's head. The thread was the curse. It was tough and powerful, just like a disease that could not be cured. Once it reached the Peak Lord's illusionary forehead, it would mean his death. Peak Lord, here is soul cleansing grass. It can purify the soul to a certain level. Although it can't nullify the curse, it's better than nothing. I have an Empyrean soul pill here. It can strengthen the soul to a certain level. Peak Lord, now that you face the curse, the stronger your soul is, the better it will be for you. Tong Wuming, Zhou Zhidao, and Lian Wuji all took out some heavenly resources or pills that were beneficial to the soul. Every single one of them were very precious, even effective on grand primes. They were treasures that basically had only demand but no supply. Jian Chen also took out some heavenly resources he had obtained from the space rings of Luo Mantian and the others, hoping that he could assist the Lord of the Heavens Linked Peak. The Lord of the Heavens Linked Peak was someone worthy of respect. Jian Chen also hoped the Peak Lord could be freed from the torture of the curse sooner. These items are all useful to you, so don't waste them on me. Even if I have these heavenly resources, it'll just give me a few hundred years at most. However, if I suppress the curse with everything that I have, I can last 10,000 years at the very least, said the Lord of the Heavens Linked Peak. He was amiable and extremely calm, having fully accepted death. Peak Lord, don't worry. I will find a way to get an expert who has comprehended the laws of curse to nullify your curse, Jian Chen said firmly. This curse has forced the Peak Lord into such a state. The expert who left behind the curse on Luo Mantian's dagger was definitely not just a 4th heavenly layer Grand Prime. They were at the 5th heavenly layer at the very least. I just happen to know someone who has comprehended the laws of curses to the 5th heavenly layer, except the price he asks for is just too great. It's impossible for our cloud plane to afford it, Lian Wuji said in pity. What is he looking for? Tong Wuming's eyes lit up. He wants an innate item of nature, Lian Wuji sighed. For experts who had reached such a level of cultivation, ordinary items would no longer interest them. Anything that interested them would be extremely precious. As soon as they heard that, the tiny sliver of hope Tong Wuming and Zhou Zhidao held was immediately put out. Innate items of nature were far too precious. Such items included the Rain Abbess innate orchid of 5 elements and the water cloud iron that the blue sky Venerable sought. They were all innate items of nature. Even though they would not be as great as some 9th grade god tier treasures, they were definitely much rarer. Normally, only peak experts would possess such items. You don't need to do that for me. Don't we still have 10,000 more years? Who knows, Maybe I'll find a way to nullify the curse during that time, said the Lord of the Heavens-linked peak. After leaving the Heavens-linked peak, Jianshan seemed rather silent. He had been thinking about how he could assist the Lord of the Heavens-linked peak. He could only think of the heavenly palace of Bisheng and the Dao clan for experts who had comprehended the laws of curses to the fifth heavenly layer of Grand Prime at the very least. They might not have people who had comprehended the laws of curses to such a level, but they could simply ask an expert like that to assist him given their renown. Jianshan did not even try to think about the Dao clan. As a result, only the heavenly palace of Bisheng remained. He still had great merit in the heavenly palace of Bisheng. It should be enough for their First Majesty, Inciting, to personally take action. However, he had always treated the merit as a final card he could play to protect the Tian Yuan clan. He had prepared it against the 9 Brilliant Star Lord, so using it now would basically be cutting off the Tian Yuan clan's final path of retreat. My laws of curses is only at God King. Even if I use up the golden core of laws completely, I'll only be able to reach infinite prime. 10 millennia. I wonder if I can comprehend the laws of curses to the fifth heavenly layer of Grand Prime in 10 millennia, Jianshan sighed inside as he felt powerless. Chapter 2651, Internal Division. Jianshan and Su Ran left the central region, returning to the Pingtian Empire in the southern region. Now, the Pingtian Empire had already reclaimed all of its lost land. With the powerful backing of the Tian Yuan clan, Mo Xingfeng's position as emperor had stabilized once again. Mo Xingfeng's cultivation was nothing special. He was nowhere close to becoming a god king, so who knows how many people were envious and jealous of his position. However, no matter how many people envied it, Mo Xingfeng's position was immovable, as he was someone Jianshan personally appointed. Jianshan's words carried quite some weight across the entire cloud plain, let alone the southern region. Even the Tong family, Fire God clan, and Cosmic sect would take them seriously. Jianshan was in no hurry to return to the Tian Yuan clan. As soon as he entered the Pingtian Empire, Su Ran and he disguised themselves. They traveled across the Pingtian Empire at a steady rate as they toured many provincial cities. All of the provincial cities of the Pingtian Empire had suffered damage of varying degrees from the recent war. Now that the war had ended, all the provincial cities were undergoing repairs. The entire Pingtian Empire was bubbling with vigor and vitality. It was prosperous. In the end, Jianshan arrived in the sword-seeking province. The people of the Ling family were handling the repairs there. When he arrived there, Jianshan could not help but think about Ling Hogong. Back then, Ling Hogong was one of the few people who gained Jianshan's recognition in the Divine King of Pingtian. However, after he received God King Duanmu's legacy, he vanished, and there was no news of him since then. With Jianshan's current strength, he would be able to find Ling Hogong as long as he was still on the cloud plane. However, he did not. Ling Hogong had obtained God King Duanmu's legacy. That was his fortuitous encounter, but he clearly needed time to digest and absorb this fortune. He would appear when the time was right. Jianshan had secretly taken care of the Ling family after Ling Hogong left. Although he rarely took personal action, he had told the Tian Yuan clan to watch out for them a very long time ago. As a result, the Ling family had been developing smoothly under the Tian Yuan clan's care. They had no reason to worry about their status. In the end, Jianshan returned to the Dong'an province. As soon as he arrived, he saw towering city walls stretch up from the ground. The reconstruction of the provincial city was one of the greatest scale in the Pingtian Empire. The project used the most people as well, reaching over 1 million. With over 1 million cultivators rebuilding the city, the speed was apparent. In just a short amount of time, the city walls had become extremely imposing. Not only was it grander than before, but it even wrapped around a larger area. Using this opportunity, the provincial city of the Dong'an province had expanded once again. The entire provincial city was destroyed, but the new provincial city is much grander than before. Brother, the provincial city we've built will probably be able to match up to the imperial capital of the Blood Sun Empire. I haven't gone to the imperial capital of the Blood Sun Empire before, but I heard from the foreman that our city will be even more magnificent and even more awe-inspiring than the imperial capital of the Blood Sun Empire. Right? Not only is the Dong'an province the greatest province in the Pingtian Empire now, but it's also the greatest province in the entire southern region. You don't even know what you're saying. What greatest province in the southern region? Let me tell you straight that the current Dong'an province is the greatest province across the entire Cloud Plain. Don't ask me how I know this. I have a niece who happens to be an attendant in the Tian Yuan clan. She specially serves a protector in the Tian Yuan clan. She heard it from the protector. A protector? Heavens, isn't that a primordial realm expert from the Tian Yuan clan? Similar conversations could be heard within the provincial city. It was filled with amazement and astonishment. Many people became lost in wonder when they saw the scale and grandeur of the new provincial city. Even though the construction was not finished yet, its tremendous scale left a permanent impression on many people. Why is the city so big? When Jianchen saw the provincial city, he was surprised as well. When Shiyu gave him the blueprints for the new provincial city, he had only glanced through it roughly, as there was no need for him to worry about these small matters with Shiyu and the others present. He only gained a rough understanding that the new provincial city would be rather large. He had never anticipated it to be so big. Its size could truly match up to the imperial capital of the Blood Sun Empire now. The current Tian Yuan clan indeed requires a provincial city of such a scale, said Su Ran. She was completely unaffected by this sight. She had lived for millions of years and had been to many places. Her insight was so great that she only found the provincial city to be at a tolerable size. Afterwards, the two of them returned to the Tian Yuan clan. Before they could even sit down properly, a few members of the upper echelon asked them to visit the discussion hall. Over a dozen people were seated within the majestic discussion hall. Most of them were the managers of the clan and members of the upper echelon. Jian Shen was only familiar with a fraction of them. I am Hua Qing. Greetings to the Patriarch. I am Hua Antai. Greetings to the Patriarch. As soon as he entered the discussion hall, two middle-aged men stood up in a hurry. They arrived before Jian Shen politely and rather submissively before directly dropping to their knees and bowing their heads. Jian Shen looked at the two of them and frowned slightly. Hua Qing and Hua Antai were both late god kings. On the Cloud Plain, such individuals would possess some status, yet they actually discarded their pride to kneel before him. Jian Shen became a little confused about their intentions. Patriarch, the Hua brothers are from the Heavenly Moon Empire. At this moment, Shiyu explained proactively, the Heavenly Moon Empire had three peak organizations, which were the Imperial Family, the Earth Spirit Sect, and the Daoist Sect of Calm Clouds. Below the three of them would be organizations like the Hua clan founded by the Hua brothers. The Hua clan has already sworn its loyalty to the Tian Yuan clan, so members of the Hua clan will never betray us. As a result, I plan to groom the Hua clan into the controller the Heavenly Moon Empire. I was wondering if the Patriarch agrees with me. Patriarch, you must handle this matter carefully. The Hua clan isn't the most powerful in the Heavenly Moon Empire. If we want to support an organization, we should support the most powerful one. Only then will we be able to remain in control. In my opinion, the Gula clan is the most suitable. Patriarch, the Zile clan of the Heavenly Moon Empire has had many years of business with our Tian Yuan clan. They would always let us get the best end of the deal. As a result, we would gain the greatest profits with the smallest price. They have always been good friends with our Tian Yuan clan. Patriarch, please forgive me for my honest opinion, but I think we should support organizations on good terms with us rather than organizations that we have no idea what they're thinking. After Shiyu, two other high-ranking members of the Tian Yuan clan spoke out, recommending a clan each. Although Jian Shen had left Shiyu to manage how they would deal with the Heavenly Moon Empire, he did state that the Tian Yuan clan should not occupy the Heavenly Moon Empire. He understood that he would always worry about the future of the Tian Yuan clan due to his identity, so he always minimized the size of the clan, preventing it from expanding too much. That way, it would be easier for him to evacuate them all. Everyone naturally obeyed his words. Since the patriarch was against the Tian Yuan clan occupying the Heavenly Moon Empire, the high-ranking members of the clan all got to action to support a side. Jianchen could tell that this had happened as well. Clearly, Shiyu had called him over in such a hurry because so many high-ranking members were against her decision, so she could not make one. The words of these high-ranking members seemed very reasonable on the surface. They all seemed to be considering for the Tian Yuan clan. You're recommending the other two organizations so eagerly, so you must have received quite a lot of benefits from them. Jianchen suddenly looked at the two high-ranking members and said calmly. Shiyu's identity was not as simple as an elder of the Tian Yuan clan. She was also the princess of the Shi Empire, so her status was great. Why would these people oppose her without enough benefits to urge them on? Chapter 2652, Domination in the Southern Region. You are mistaken, Patriarch. You are mistaken. We're solely thinking about the interests of the clan. We would never betray the clan for selfish gains. Patriarch, we are sincerely working for the development of the clan. We will never conduct embezzlement. The Patriarch must look into the bottom of this. Jianchen's words frightened the two high-ranking members quite a lot. They immediately announced their loyalty in fear. Jianchen possessed supreme authority in the Tian Yuan clan. These people could ignore Shiyu and refute her to a certain degree, but they dared not show any defiance to Jianchen at all. Shiyu glanced past the two of them and frowned slightly. She did not consider this possibility of embezzlement before because the two of them had sufficient reason to recommend the other two clans. They were very reasonable with all aspects, completely treating the development of the Tian Yuan clan as the priority. She could not refute them. However, now that Jianchen had spoken, she immediately developed doubts. Cold light flickered through her eyes. She knew Jianchen was a primordial realm expert and could look into many things. His capabilities could not be compared to godhood cultivators. He would never mention things aimlessly. Since he had said that, he must know something she did not. Jianchen glanced past the two of them calmly and did not look into the matter anymore. His statement was not groundless. As they were not particularly powerful, he could vaguely see their threads of karma. Even if he could not discover everything by peering into these threads of karma, he could roughly confirm some matters. It was impossible for an organization to survive if it were too transparent. Not a single organization could avoid such matters, including the Tian Yuan clan that possessed a special status on the Cloud Plane. As a clan that could influence the entire Cloud Plane, the Tian Yuan clan naturally became a target that all organizations wanted to be on good terms with. They racked their brains and came up with everything they could to establish whatever tie they could with the Tian Yuan clan. As a result, these members of the clan who were not particularly powerful but possessed great status, to the point where they could even influence the clan to a certain degree, had become their targets. Humans were greedy. Basically no one could resist the temptation of great benefits. Not to mention that the temptation they faced was the Heavenly Moon Empire. As Jianchen sank into his thoughts, the two people who had been doubted faced inner turmoil. They were both extremely unsettled and nervous, afraid that something would be exposed. They had not done anything against the clan, but they had accepted some benefits from other organizations. Shiyu, you can be fully responsible for these small matters. There's no need to report to me. In the end, Jianchen did not choose to pursue the matter. He stood on a completely different level from them, so his perspective would be different as well. Many ancient organizations would be willing to butt heads and shed blood over the Heavenly Moon Empire, but it really did not interest Jianchen. As long as they did not betray the Tian Yuan clan and get in the way of the clan's interest, Jianchen could not be bothered to deal with these matters. He left it all to Shiyu. Clearly, Jianchen favored Shiyu a little more out of all the high-ranking members of the clan. Jianchen's word was the final word for all of them. With that, no one dared to oppose Shiyu anymore. In the end, under Shiyu's insistence, the Hua clan led by the Hua brothers gained control over the Heavenly Moon Empire. The Hua clan became the imperial family of the Heavenly Moon Empire. They were an imperial family that had yielded to the Tian Yuan clan and served the Tian Yuan clan. At the same time, the past ruler of the southern region, the Blood Sun Empire, faced destruction. The two remaining ancestral emperors of the Blood Sun Empire both died in the central region, and their infinite primes suffered heavy casualties. Just as the imperial family was weakened, a few organizations originally suppressed by the empire banded together and directed their swords towards the empire, killing their way into the imperial palace. The imperial family was basically completely destroyed. As the current emperor of the Blood Sun Empire, the Blood Emperor was beheaded. His head was hung high up on the city walls. The organizations clearly made tight arrangements when they took action. Consequently, not a single member of the imperial family managed to escape. Apart from the ninth prince, they all died. As the imperial family was ravaged, the ninth prince remained unscathed despite being right in the middle of the fighting. It was a miracle in the southern region. I never thought that the Blood Sun Empire, after ruling over the southern region for more than 1,000,000 years, an empire known to be everlasting, would just be destroyed on a whim. It's impossible for the Tian Yuan clan to be uninvolved in the Blood Sun Empire's destruction. Without the Tian Yuan clan's permission, those organizations could never banded together. But the Tian Yuan clan sure is strange. They actually wouldn't take the Heavenly Moon Empire, such a juicy piece of territory, for themselves, and gave it to someone else. Who knows what they are thinking? Do you think the Tian Yuan clan will forsake the territory of the Blood Sun Empire as well? What do you know? That's called being aloof. The current Tian Yuan clan has transcended worldly attachments. They do not value fame at all, so why would they place value in these benefits? Though, the ninth prince of the Blood Sun Empire sure is pitiful. He's a complete loner. It's said that he has already become a wanderer. Right? I even recently heard that someone saw the ninth prince. His clothes were in tatters, and his hair was a mess as well. He seemed like a beggar. Sigh, the ninth prince is a powerful peak god king after all, but he has fallen to such a level. What a pity for him. Discussions about the Tian Yuan clan and the Blood Sun Empire could be heard everywhere in the southern region. They were filled with amazement and wonder. However, most people paid attention to who would be occupying such a vast empire after the Blood Sun Empire had fallen. The organizations that had banded together to destroy the Blood Sun Empire were all silent. No one was there to replace them either. They all occupied the imperial capital of the Blood Sun Empire, watching over it together. None of them crossed any boundaries, as if they were patiently waiting for something. The Tian Yuan clan was peaceful as well. They did not accept the territory of the Blood Sun Empire either. This situation created another round of discussion among the various cultivators and organizations in the southern region. The topic of the Blood Sun Empire's fate could be heard almost anywhere. It was extremely popular. If it were not for the secret deterrence from the Tian Yuan clan, if it were not for the organizations working together to maintain order, there would probably be many medium-sized and smaller organizations who would try to take advantage of the troubled time to get their hands on a share of the empire. Several days later, an edict that determined the fate of the Blood Sun Empire was formally issued. However, the outcome stunned the entire southern region and even the cultivators in the other regions. They were all astounded. The organizations that had destroyed the Blood Sun Empire announced an alliance. They would control the Blood Sun Empire together. The position of emperor would be rotated among the organizations once every 100 years. Why would it be like this? The Blood Sun Empire is not the Heavenly Moon Empire after all, but the Tian Yuan clan actually doesn't want it. What is the Tian Yuan clan thinking? What do you know? Let me tell you. It doesn't matter who controls the Blood Sun Empire, as it'll definitely be someone from the Tian Yuan clan. As a result, it doesn't matter who the Blood Sun Empire ends up with, there'll be a fact that remains unchanged. Its true master is the Tian Yuan clan. Right? I heard that the leaders of the organizations all went to the Tian Yuan clan and even took over 90% of the resources from the Blood Sun Empire's treasury with them. They're clearly offering all these resources to the Tian Yuan clan. From now onwards, the Tian Yuan clan is in charge of the southern region. Chapter 2653, Shiyu's assassination attempt. The Tian Yuan clan had become the undisputed ruler of the southern region. However, the Tian Yuan clan did not unite the entire region. After gaining control over the Heavenly Moon Empire and the Blood Sun Empire, they fell quiet once again. The Tian Yuan clan did not interfere with the development of the few other ancient organizations and the many divine kingdoms in the southern region either. This did not mean that the Tian Yuan clan had no ambition. It was the exact opposite. Most members of the upper echelon were teeming with ambition. They wanted to unite the southern region and develop into the other regions. Some of them even wanted to establish branches in the central region. With the Tian Yuan clan's current strength and prestige, they could easily achieve that. However, all of these suggestions for expansion were firmly turned down by Jian Chen. No one dared to object. Not only did Jian Chen's actions confuse these members of the upper echelon, but even many cultivators and scholars of the outside world were left at a loss. The forbidden grounds of the Tian Yuan clan was beautiful and extremely quiet. It was a sharp contrast to the front courtyard of the clan. A water-blue divine hall stood silently in the forbidden grounds, giving off an imposing pressure. This divine hall was the water cloud hall Jian Chen had obtained from the Gloomwater sect. Jian Chen stood on top of the divine hall, peering out a window at the Tian Yuan clan as he sank into his thoughts. Jian Chen, is something bothering you? Shangguan Mu'er arrived beside Jian Chen. Her voice was gentle and full of concern. I'm thinking about just how much longer the Tian Yuan clan's current glory can last, Jian Chen said with somewhat mixed emotions. He was rather worried. If his identity was exposed one day, would the Tian Yuan clan be hunted down by the entire Saints world? After all, he was the successor of the Twin Swords, a disciple of the Sword sect of Violet Heavens from the Immortals world. This was determined the moment he obtained the Twin Swords. This was something that could no longer be changed, nor could he refuse to accept it. The Immortals world opposed the Saints world. The previous master of the Twin Swords was one of the 5 grand exalts of the Immortals world. When the war between the two worlds erupted last time, he had used the Twin Swords to kill many experts of the Saints world. He had already left behind deep grievances. The people who could die to the Twin Swords were naturally anything but ordinary. He could say that basically any of them were existences that dominated an entire region in the Saints world. They were individuals with many disciples and descendants. If his identity were exposed, he could anticipate the terrifying consequences he would have to face. As long as you're here, I think the Tian Yuan clan will remain glorious forever, said Shangguan Mu'er. What if I'm gone? Jian Chen sighed gently. He looked at Shangguan Mu'er, and a sliver of shame flashed through the depths of his eyes. He suddenly felt very lost about his future path, nor did he know where Shangguan Mu'er would go if he left the Saints world one day. Was she supposed to go with him to the Immortals world, or did she have to remain in the Saints world? The situation in the Immortals world was unknown. No one knew what would happen to him once he went there. It was unknown whether it would be good or bad. Back in the Neptunian diving palace, the clone that the Samsaric immortal exalt had conjured from a wisp of his soul had said, "Before you become powerful, returning to the Immortals world rashly won't turn out well." Just that short sentence disclosed far too much to Jian Chen. As a result, Jian Chen did not wish for Shangguan Mu'er to continue risking her life with him in the Immortals world, as it was unsuitable for her to go there in the first place with her identity as the successor of the third ancestor. However, if she remained in the Saints world, she would still be affected by him. She was the successor of the third ancestor, yet she had married a person from the Immortals world. She would definitely be condemned by all. If you're not around, I'll protect the Tian Yuan clan, Shangguan Mu'er said firmly. She stared off into the distance, giving off an inspiring sense of determination. Jian Chen sighed secretly. How would he be willing to let Shangguan Mu'er inherit all the burden he had to bear? H felt especially sorry when he thought of how the burden of the clan would rest on a woman like Shangguan Mu'er. I hope I'll still have the chance to leave quietly. That way, it'll be easier for Shengguan Moor. Jian Chen could only pray inside. However, it was not like he did not have a trump card. He still had the heavenly palace of Bisheng as a final path of retreat. However, he was uncertain whether this card would still be useful once his identity was exposed. Boom! At this moment, a great rumble rang out from the front of the Tian Yuan clan. Powerful energy wreaked havoc, directly tearing the discussion hall into pieces. The suddenness of all this broke Jian Chen's train of thought. His face immediately became ugly as he teleported over with the laws of space. The front courtyard of the Tian Yuan clan had descended into darkness. This was the work of an infinite prime's laws of darkness. Once trapped in there, even god kings would be rendered blind. The person who did all this was a middle-aged man in black clothes. He hid within the darkness, stabbing towards Shiyu with a dark sword. Shiyu wore a god artifact armor on her, so she was protected by 3 layers of light. Each layer of light came from a defensive treasure and was extremely powerful. It could block an attack from a primordial realm expert. This was what her father, the Shi Emperor, had given her to protect her life. But now, a small hole had appeared in the 3 layers of light. They had all been pierced, having been stabbed through by the middle-aged man. In the end, he left behind a deep mark on Shiyu's armor. The man's attack was just too powerful. After penetrating Shiyu's 3 layers of defense in a single stroke, the remaining force was still beyond what the god artifact could endure. A portion of it entered Shiyu's body. Blood sprayed from Shiyu's mouth as she was launched into the air. She heavily slammed into a stone wall behind her, becoming greatly injured. Seeing how he had failed to kill Shiyu in a single strike, pity appeared in the man's eyes. However, he did not hesitate. He did not launch a second attack and immediately retreated, hiding back into the darkness. At the same time, a huge hand condensed from energy reached out from the depths of the Tian Yuan clan. Wherever it passed by, space would twist heavily. It shot right towards the black-clothed man with monstrous power. Su Ran had taken action. Before her hand had even arrived, a tremendous pressure descended first, sealing up the space around the black-clothed man. However, Su Ran actually failed to grab anything with that. The man had already vanished into the darkness without leaving any traces behind. In the next moment, Su Ran immediately expanded the senses of her soul. It enveloped the entire Ping Tian Empire in an instant as she attempted to find where the man was hiding. However, Su Ran found nothing in the end. The man was clearly an extremely skilled assassin. He was only an infinite prime, but his ability to hide was extremely impressive. As a result, even someone like Su Ran failed to discover his traces. The laws of darkness that enveloped the Tian Yuan clan receded with the man's retreat. Jian Shen had arrived at a certain time when this all happened, and he was currently standing right where the man appeared last with his eyes closed, as if he was sensing for something. Only now did the primordial realm protectors of the Tian Yuan clan rush over, but they completely missed the assassin. The black-clothed man moved far too quickly. His attack to his retreat had been completed in a split second. He was so fast that the experts of the Tian Yuan clan failed to react in time. Su Ran's figure also appeared high in the sky. She had come in person. She hovered there as she gave off a blanketing pressure. Her expression was very ugly. An infinite prime had actually managed to escape under her watch, which was humiliating for her as a chaotic prime. Especially when she saw the 3 layers of light that had been penetrated and the deep mark on the god artifact, her face became extremely sunken. Running won't be that easy. It was also at this moment that Jian Chen's eyes snapped open. His eyes surged with killing intent as he immediately vanished. He arrived above a lake 100 kilometers away instantly through the laws of space and stabbed out at the empty air with his 9-star sword of heavenly ways. Chapter 2654, The Shadow Prince Bang. Immediately, a violent rumble rang out. Powerful energy surged, directly ripping through the surrounding space. Waves hundreds of meters tall were stirred up in the lake below. Jian Chen's 9-star sword of heavenly ways collided with a dark sword. This was a clash between experts at the primordial realm. Every single strike was devastating. Their clash this time managed to throw all the water in the small lake into the air. As a result, a huge ditch replaced the rippling lake surface. Jian Chen had forced the black-clothed man out of the space there. He glanced past Jian Chen coldly and deeply. He was shocked. His ability to hide was almost unmatched. As long as he stayed hidden, even the senses of souls of chaotic primes would fail to find him. But now, his concealing technique that he took pride in was actually useless before Jian Chen. An infinite prime had actually discovered his traces. He found this difficult to believe. It must be a coincidence, thought the black-clothed man. He forcefully suppressed his churning vital energy and retreated as quickly as he could. At the same time, the laws of darkness descended, instantly enveloping a range of 1,000 kilometers. He vanished once again in the darkness. Killing intent shone in Jian Chen's eyes. This time, he did not close his eyes to use the senses of his soul. Chaotic force surged within him as the 9-star sword of heavenly ways conjured star upon star, shining with starlight. Jian Chen directly slashed out at the darkness. With that, the space there immediately cracked. Under the illumination of the resplendent starlight, the laws of darkness that filled the area receded. The starlight seemed to purify the laws of darkness it came in contact with. Of course, that was not actually what happened. Instead, Jian Chen's slash was just too powerful, surpassing the black-robed man's laws of darkness. Before the might of the 9-star sword of heavenly ways, the laws of darkness rapidly dispersed. Jian Chen's slash did not land right there. Instead, it shifted through the laws of space, landing in a region of space several dozen kilometers away. Bang! With a grunt, the space there trembled violently. A sword tip shining with resplendent starlight swept out, and a black-clothed man immediately fell out from a mist of blood. Blood sprayed from his mouth as he was thrown backwards. His ability to flee was just as impressive as his extreme skill at hiding. When he enveloped the surface of the lake with his laws of darkness earlier, he had already silently fled several dozen kilometers. However, no matter how great at fleeing he was unable to escape under Jian Chen's watch. How did you discover me? Finally, the black-clothed man could not help but ask. He understood his abilities extremely well. With the various techniques he possessed, if he wanted to flee wholeheartedly, even many chaotic primes would fail to stop him. Now that Jian Chen had stopped him several times, he felt very perplexed. Although he knew Jian Chen grasped the laws of space and could sense the minute pulses in space, his abilities would not cause any ripples in space. The laws of space alone would not be able to locate him with precision. Suddenly, a powerful pressure spread out mightily. The black-clothed man immediately felt his body sink. The tremendous pressure that permeated the surroundings had suddenly immobilized him. The black-clothed man's face changed drastically. During that short moment of delay, a chaotic prime had completely locked onto his presence. He was in danger. This time, the black-clothed man no longer had a chance to flee. A huge hand fell from the sky with a chilling energy storm. It sealed the surroundings and grabbed the man in a single stroke. Spurt. Blood sprayed from the black-clothed man's mouth. Before the energy hand, he was as feeble as an infant. Immediately, he was heavily injured. The hand also trapped him firmly, leaving him completely immobilized. At that moment, no matter what unfathomable techniques he possessed, he no longer had the power to use them. He could have escaped under the watch of a chaotic prime with his techniques if he had not been captured yet. However, his fate was out of his hands now that he had ended up in the hands of a chaotic prime. Who are you? Who sent you? Jian Chen suddenly appeared before the black-robed man and stared at him coldly. Afterwards, figures flickered behind him. The protectors of the Tianyuan clan had all caught up, surrounding the black-clothed man cautiously. The man seemed to be around 40 years of age. His appearance was nothing special at all, the type that would not raise any attention if thrown into a crowd. He knew that he was doomed, but he showed no fear at all. He had accepted death. "Tell me how you discovered me, and I'll tell you my identity," the black-clothed man said calmly. He did not care about death at all. He truly wanted to find out how Jian Chen had managed to find him. He understood his techniques to hide far too well. He could understand it if he had been caught by some rather powerful chaotic primes, but he struggled to accept that it was an infinite prime. As a result, even if he had to die, he wanted to die knowing. "You probably don't know I have the laws of space. No matter where you hide, you remain in this region of space. As long as you're there, you can't hide from me with your current level of cultivation," said Jian Chen. "Impossible. My secret technique is unlike any other. Even if you've comprehended the laws of space, you can't find any trace of me." The black-clothed man refused to believe it. "Patriarch, I know who he is," Protector Xing said at this moment. His eyes twinkled as he stared right at the man's face, studying it. "If I've guessed correctly, he should be the elder brother of the previous emperor of the Blood Sun Empire, the Shadow Prince. The Shadow Prince is someone who hides in the dark. He basically never reveals himself in public, so there aren't a lot of people who know him in the Blood Sun Empire. However, the Shadow Corps founded solely by the Shadow Prince is the most mysterious as well as the most powerful squadron in the Blood Sun Empire. Not only do members of the Corps possess great battle prowess, but all of them are skilled in strange assassination techniques as well. They've always been the trump card of the Blood Sun Empire. The Shadow Corps were basically uprooted by the great clans when the Blood Sun Empire was destroyed. However, they failed to find the leader of the Corps, the Shadow Prince. "Who would have known he would appear here," said Protector Xing. He had personally taken part in the destruction of the Blood Sun Empire. However, he had not acted openly, only secretively. As a result, he knew a lot. The Shadow Corps have been uprooted? "Humph, you are overconfident. How can the Shadow Corps personally founded by me be destroyed so easily? You only know less than half of the Shadow Corps' entire force. Tian Yuan clan, what awaits you is the endless assassinations from the Shadow Corps." "Ha ha 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 ha," the Shadow Prince laughed aloud. A transparent flame rose up from his body, and he was slowly reduced to ashes. His soul perished. He knew he would definitely face death, so he used a secret technique to commit suicide without a second thought. The Shadow Prince was dead, but Jian Chen's furrowed brows would not ease up no matter what. Protector Xing, Protector Bai, Protector Mei, and Protector Shui were rather stern as well. The survival of the Shadow Corps would mean a constant threat to the Tian Yuan clan. Although the Corps was unable to threaten them, the primordial realm experts, the godhood cultivators in the clan would no longer be safe. You're tuning in to the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.